Hey, hey everybody, come on in. This is me on Things and Stuff. And Sean Yankee if you're on Facebook. That's also my name, by the way. I always forget to introduce myself, but I am Sean. And welcome everyone on Facebook and everyone here on YouTube. We are going to hang out because I am learning the new computer. We have the new computer now. So a lot of you know that that's been a long time a coming. But I only know one way to learn how to use stuff, and that is to do it. So I am trying to figure out things such as audio levels and things that I can do with it. So I am going to experiment a little, and I figured we would talk while we experimented. There's a lot of things that are on my mind to discuss, and I just want to try some things out. And what I'm going to do real quick as we let people have a little time to get in and like and share and all that is watch a quick video, because I want to see if I've got the screen capture settings right and audio levels right, and it'll just be fun. But this is from the YouTube channel. We're going to watch a video. In just a second, let me get it up. I'm going to switch scenes here. This is something else I'm experimenting with, switching back and forth from scenes. But let's try this. Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. On this episode, we're going to talk about the Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is the phenomenon where someone has a clear memory of something that never actually happened in this reality. Many people, mostly total strangers, remember the exact same events with the exact same details. However, these memories are different from what's recorded in history books, newspaper archives, and so on. Now, we're not talking about false memories. Many people speculate that parallel realities exist, and until now, we've been sliding between them without even realizing it. Some even believe that the Mayans were right and the world actually did end in 2012 and we slid into a different reality. The Mandela Effect itself gets its name from the fact that many people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s, whereas in our reality he was released from prison and of course went on to become the president of South Africa and lived until December of 2013. But there are hundreds more examples of Mandela effects, and in this video we're going to go into some of the bigger and more shocking ones. Let's start off with one of my favorites, the Berenstain Bears. Do you remember the Berenstain Bears? I do. I owned the whole book set, and they were my favorite books as a child, so you can imagine my shock when I found out that they never were the Berenstain Bears. They were the Berenstain Bears. Another one from my childhood is about Curious George. When you think back in your memories of Curious George, does he have a tail? I remember him having one. I remember him using it and even hanging by it. But I can't remember that because Curious George never had a tail. Jiffy Peanut Butter is another good one. I remember a brand name of peanut butter called Jiffy, but there never was one. It's always been Jif, no fee, just J-I-F. Then how about the famous Lindbergh baby that was kidnapped and never found? Family Guy even made fun of this one. Well, in this timeline, the Lindbergh baby was found, May 12th of 1932. And how about this one? Do you remember the movie where Sinbad plays a genie? I do, but we shouldn't, because Sinbad never made a movie where he was a genie in this reality. Here's another good one from the movies. Remember the famous line from Forrest Gump? Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates. Well, what if I told you that that wasn't the actual line? The actual line is, life was like a box of chocolates. Even though that doesn't even sound right to me at all, I remember it as life is like a box of chocolates. But I also thought I remembered Star Wars. In the big reveal, I remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." If you remember it that way too, you're wrong just like me, because the line is actually, "No, I am your father," and apparently it always has been. Remember the Disney classic Snow White? Of course you do. Remember the evil witch and her mirror? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Well, it turns out she never said mirror, mirror at all. She says magic mirror. Now, does that even sound right to you? Magic mirror on the wall? How about this one? Think about the Monopoly guy. Are you picturing him? Does he have a monocle? In my memory, he does. But I'm wrong again because he does not and never has had a monocle. Now, do you remember the Publishers Clearinghouse and the old commercials of them showing up with the big check and the balloons? Who do you remember as their spokesman? I remember it very clearly being Ed McMahon. Many people remember vividly Ed McMahon being the spokesperson for Publishers Clearinghouse, and we're all wrong because he never was. And how about the old TV show Lassie? Do you remember the episode where Timmy fell down the well? I do, and so do many people. Many TV shows have even parodied the premise, but we're all apparently remembering it wrong because Timmy never fell in the well at all. Lassie did. Crazy, right? Well, guess what else? We all forgot about Dre. A few years ago, Dr. Dre put out a line of high-end headphones. Do you remember what they were called? These were and still are very popular headphones, and the advertising for them was everywhere, and I remember clearly it being called Beats by Dre. But it turns out that it's always been Beats by Dr. Dre, which doesn't even look right to me at all. Here's one that still aggravates me. Remember the Queen hit We Are the Champions? I remember Of the World being part of the big climax of the song. But it turns out that Of the World isn't even in We Are the Champions, no matter how clearly I can hear Freddie Mercury belting it out in my head. Now, this last example surprised me quite a bit. This Mandela effect has to do with the attack on the Statue of Liberty. That's right, the Statue of Liberty was attacked during World War II by German spies, doing permanent damage to the torch, which as a result has been closed for 100 years. I, for one of many, had no memory of this event, but you can look it up for yourself. It's known as the Black Tom explosion. German spies blew up an ammunition barge, causing a huge explosion measuring up 5.5 on the Richter scale. It was the first terrorist attack on American soil, and many people have absolutely no memory of it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Let me know in the comments what you thought about these examples of Mandela effects and how you remember them, or share others I may not have even witnessed. Alright, I wanted to see if that worked, and it did. But I like that video. This one here is my most successful Mandela video, and it has a mistake in it. I get a Mandela wrong in this video, but it has 68,000 views, so I've left it up. But that's my most popular one. I like this one because it has the historical Statue of Liberty one in it, which is fascinating to me because it's a triple Mandela. But let me see here. Let me go back and switch scenes back. That's the only thing. I hate that it has to be like that, but we can switch scenes and get it back over to this so we can hang out and talk. Looks like some people have come in. Jonathan's here. Hey, Jonathan. Hey, Nissa. Good to see you. Wakey bakey, she says. Absolutely. James is here on YouTube. Hey, James. Good to see you. Good to see we got a few people here. I want to experiment with some stuff. I'm trying to get better, especially at YouTube streaming. And I've been checking out a lot of streamers on YouTube. And a lot of people that stream on YouTube seem to play videos during the stream. Now, that is weird to me. I'm trying to get the rhythm right on it. It's very weird to me. But it's something I'm trying to pick up on because I'm trying to grow YouTube streaming and figure that out and figure out how to meld the two. It's different on YouTube than it is on Facebook. So my background in all this streaming stuff has been on Facebook. We've been doing that for years, and the YouTube, I've just been new to that. We've only been streaming on YouTube for maybe a year, but we've grown so much since we started, but I want to really get it going. Nissa says, I was 70 miles from the Tacoma Dome last night. Had to work, couldn't go. I watched it. Oh, that rally was huge. Bernie had a huge rally in Tacoma. That was a fantastic rally. Wow, Steve's here. Steve's usually at work this time of day. This is an afternoon experiment where I'm trying out things like switching between scenes and getting the settings right on screen capture and playing videos. But what's up is I'm trying to learn this new computer, Jonathan. I'm trying to figure it out. And I only know how to figure stuff out by doing it and experimenting live. So you guys end up being guinea pigs. James says you were watching yesterday's show. Are you having better luck with commenting? I'm trying the difference between low latency and ultra low latency for YouTube. So I don't know which one's better. The last two streams have been in ultra low latency, which is supposed to be the best for instant comments. But I'm trying this one in low latency just to see if there's even a difference, because the ultra low latency doesn't allow me to do other things that I don't know if they matter or not, but it just is limiting. So I'm trying to figure out if because I know James has had problems in the past with buffering when commenting on YouTube, and I want to see that that's ironed out. He says, yep. I don't know if that means it's still giving you trouble or if it's good now. Steve says, have you seen the latest Bernie poll? It's off the charts. The Democratic establishment is doing everything they can to stop Bernie Sanders, and what they're ending up doing is helping him. They don't realize that they're building this revolution. They're building our momentum. And all of this attacks on Bernie are backfiring so beautifully. It's tremendous. And Nissa says, one lady said 27,000. I saw 28,000, I think. So, yeah, that sounds about right. Somewhere in that area. The crowd looked huge. I shared some pictures of it. Dion says I have an echo. How did I fix that last time? Is there an echo, guys? It started when you began typing. Hey, Shelly. I want to see, are you noticing an echo? Sound just changed. James says it too. What the? That makes no sense. I noticed that I had an echo problem the other day. I don't know why that's happening. Is it still the echo? Jonathan says, yep. Sounds like a reverb. Depends which one you look at. Yes, echo. Damn it. Trying to figure out why. It's frustrating because if I was better at computers, I would be able to figure this out easier. I wouldn't struggle so much. But I'm not. And that's unfortunate. I'm trying to, though. I'm trying to play with... Shouldn't be. I don't see in the settings what's wrong. Steve says a little echo, it's not bad. Yes, but we can hear you, Shelly says. So it's not distracting. When I listened back, James says you was okay when you started. I thought so too, man. I didn't hear anything because I listened out in the hall to the video just to make sure audio was okay. That's kind of why I played the video. And it all seemed fine. So what I might do is I have another video that I had picked out because, like I said, on YouTube, they play the videos during the streams. I don't know how common that is. I shouldn't say it's common. It's only been in the ones that I've been checking out. By the way, I'm going on a streamer's feed tomorrow. System failure. It would be around 10 a.m., 9:30 a.m. Central. something like that. We're going to communicate, I'm sure, I hope, and iron it out. He said he's going to send me a link, but it looks like we're going to be talking about conspiratorial type stuff and Mandela stuff and things like that. But that should be cool, and I'll share the link to it when I'm on, and you guys can come hang out with us and check that out. So I'm trying to build a community over here on YouTube. Steve says usually the mic is too close to something. Is it? It's a minor technical glitch, but no biggie, Jonathan says. It's still going on though, guys, huh? I will try to fix it. I know what it is, and I see if I can fix it on the fly. I'm not sure if I can. I don't think I can. I thought I had it fixed though. That frustrates me. System failure, 8:30 Pacific. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's going to be, well, 9:30-ish Central is all I know so far. So I can't really plug it right now. Hopefully I get more information today. I was just at his feed today. He's been asking me to come on with him for a while. And we just haven't. Oh my God. Kathy, there is Super Chat on YouTube. And Kathy just gave $20 on YouTube to the show. That is phenomenal. Thank you so much. That is a new way to support this show and the shows that we do. We now have Super Chat. That's one of the perks of being past 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And also one of the reasons why I want to build up the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Thank you. She says thanks for being me. Thank you. That's amazing. I don't know what to say now. Shelly says awesome, Kathy. Yeah, you're damn right. That is awesome. I'm glad that I inspired you to do that, but I want to do something really quick. And I want to try and fix this echo. So I had a video picked out. If the echo's still going on, I want you guys to tell me if it's bothering you, because I have a video picked out I can play for you and try and fix the sound while the video plays. It's on the Titanic swap. It's from the YouTube channel, and it's something I want to get more. I want to get more exposure to, but it's just something I have ready if we need to fix the sound. Kathy says tomorrow night I want to see Bernie kneecap Bloomberg. I hope Bernie goes more aggressive at the debates. I would love to see that. It's not his style though, but he really needs to, and he needs to see Bloomberg as the enemy, because Steve says thanks, Kathy, and thank you very much, Kathy. Like I said, they need to keep us from getting 1,990 delegates, and that's what they're going to try to do. And the guy that they're going to try to install is Bloomberg. That's our enemy. Now, I think Buttigieg is a piece of that. He's a big part. He's there to pull focus and pull delegates. They all just need delegates. They need to keep us from getting 1,990 delegates. That's what they're going to try to do. So they need us to go into the convention with less than 1,990, because 1,990 clinches the nomination. Dion says just try one platform, either Facebook or YouTube, for a minute to see if that affects the echo. I don't think that's what the echo is. I think I know exactly what the echo is. My mic also has a microphone, and I have it turned off. It should be off. Something had to have adjusted my settings to turn it back on. But I feel like if I play this video for you guys and I go in and fix that I can make it stop. I feel like the mic's turned back on the camera, and then I'm picking up myself through two mics, and that's why there's an echo. I think I know exactly what it is. But it definitely wouldn't be the multi-streaming, because that's going through a website. So it leaves my computer, it hits Caster, and then Caster sends it to Facebook and YouTube. So Facebook and YouTube are both receiving the same stream from Caster, and that wouldn't affect the echo. Looks like it glitched for a second there. But the debates, yeah. Um, I was forgetting that they were tomorrow. They always creep up on me, and I knew it was the 19th. I have it written on my calendar. And by the way, Nevada on the 22nd, and we need to crush it in Nevada. Matter of fact, I want to try something while we're talking about Bernie and try and scenes. There we go. Now we're in the Daily Burn set. This is something I wanted to try out, and this is something the laptop never could handle. Switching scenes, going from different. This will open up a lot of new possibilities. So I'll be able to move around and change what we're looking at and change how the show looks during the show and do different things. So that's something I wanted to see if it would do. And that's cool. No echo in this set. So the problem is in that set. So the problem is in the vintage set. Okay, I won't go back to the vintage set. We got it. We fixed the problem. So, okay, that's what it is. It's in that one set. So that's good. That's good. We figured something out. But now we're in the Bernie set. Just for a little while. I know YouTube sometimes doesn't like it when I get political. Why does this... I'm going to show that. It blocked that message, Kathy. She said, follow Benjamin Dixon. He is nonstop on Bloomberg. And then Kathy said, if you're on Twitter, there are so many racist Bloomberg videos. Once they get around, he is done. Oh, have you seen the quotes that his people that worked for him have put out? There's a ton on Bloomberg. Just a quick Google search is enough to take Bloomberg down. Yeah, but that's who the establishment is going to throw their weight behind. I'm now sure of it. I think it'll probably be a combination of Bloomberg Buttigieg or Bloomberg Warren or Bloomberg Klobuchar, something like that. They'll try and keep Bernie under 1990 delegates, and then they'll combine two of their shills, and Bloomberg's going to be the main shill, I think. I think he's going to buy the nomination. He says he intends to spend $1 billion. And he'll probably spend more. He's spending at a rate of like $1 million a day, I think, is what it is. Because Shelley, like she says, Bloomberg is saturating the airwaves with black persons in California, targeting people of color. Isn't that crazy? The pandering. Just for a second. SNL kind of poked fun at it. They did a cold open on the debates, and it wasn't very funny. A friend of mine shared it with me. It was, well, typical of newer Saturday Night Live. It wasn't very funny at all. But this was funny. The pandering, the black vote, how they talk about that, and the way they approach that. But they are targeting people of color, and not only that, they are hiring people of color to caucus and go to primaries and go to events and show up at rallies. They pay them. Kathy says pocket change for him. Oh, it is. Oh, it is. He's the 9th richest man in the world, I've read. I didn't know that. I didn't realize he was so rich and so powerful. But he is Donald Trump. Like, you know what I mean? They want, that's what they want. They want a situation where they win either way. And they're going to try to force it in. So it's going to take everyone being very dedicated and being persistent and fighting, moving forward, and knowing that it's going to take us being active. Because Jonathan's right. The whole system is rigged. He says the whole system's rigged, in my opinion. And you're absolutely right. It is rigged. Kathy says Bloomberg gave $5 million to Stacey Abrams and she sold her soul for $5 million. It seems like they all have a price, doesn't it? You know what I mean? But this is cool that I can switch sets because I wanted to promote a little bit that the reasons to follow the YouTube channel, Me on Things and Stuff, and that is because there's other shows. And if you only follow on certain pages, like because I have people that only watch on Our Revolution War Room, which is the page that this show comes from, the Daily Burn, which is every day at 7, by the way, 7 p.m. Central. Anytime I say a time, it's going to be Central because that's what I know. And I know that isn't Pacific the one that's more advertising friendly to say that you're coming on at those times. I should probably learn what's the most popular time zone so that I know what to promote in. But I forgot what I was saying because I confused myself. Shelly says absolutely a setup. I don't know exactly what you were talking about, but I think we were talking about Buttigieg and Bloomberg and them pairing up two of them as a super team to try and overwhelm Bernie at the convention. That's what I think we're heading towards. Is them trying to, because Bernie's going to win, and he's going to keep winning, and he's going to keep winning these states. But what they hope to do is keep him from getting enough delegates by pulling the same stuff that they pulled in Iowa and the same stuff that they pulled in even New Hampshire, which is supposed to be, or is notoriously, hard to rig. They pulled off rigging even there. So, with electioneering and different things like that, there were shady tactics that went on in New Hampshire as well. But they plan to pull stuff in Nevada. They're already pulling stuff in Nevada. They made a rule change for early ballots to where you apparently have to pick 3 choices, and if you don't, your ballot isn't valid. Well, that wasn't a rule to all the people that have already voted, so their ballots will all be null and void. They're always doing things to rig things, and they will pull things at every caucus and primary to try to pull the amount of delegates Bernie gets, which is why we can't get comfortable. Just to do a burn for just a second, it's important to remember we cannot get comfortable. We cannot lay back. We cannot feel like this is ever a time to stop pushing hard. Just because we're the front runners doesn't mean it's time to get lazy. It's time to work harder and make sure we stay the front runners and do everything that we need to do to move this forward. Let me know, is there an echo in this set? Because this is one of the sets I'm trying out for Conspiracy Theories and Chill tonight. So I might need to fix audio in this set, and I need to know that. So let me know if there's any echo in here. But Dion says, I can't see the YouTube comments. Is it just me? This got me big time on my phone. Are you on a phone? Right there under the video, you'll see a little double box thing icon, and it'll say live chat. Click on that, and that will bring up the live chat, and you'll be able to see the YouTube comments. Because James and Kathy are here commenting on YouTube. James says, I saw a Bloomberg commercial and didn't know what Mike it was about at first. He has spent a ton on ads. You can't watch a YouTube video without seeing a Mike Bloomberg ad. It's ridiculous. He has saturated the radio, TV, magazine, and internet with money and influence, and he is trying to buy the Democratic nomination. At least spend enough money to make it believable when they try to give him the Democratic nomination. That's really all they need to do, is fool the people, get them to buy it. But I don't know how they're going to pull this off, because Bernie's going to damn near sweep the country. And how are they going to fool people into believing that Mike Bloomberg won this? We can't let them. We got to make sure that we scream as loud as we can the whole time that this rigging is going on and this shady stuff. Hey, Helen, this shady stuff that's happening. We have to make sure that we expose it. You know, whether you really believe in politics or believe in what we're doing or want to see everything move forward or not, you should care. Shelley says, what is the name of your Bernie page? Our Revolution War Room. Our Revolution War Room. That is the name of the home of the Daily Burn. That's where the Daily Burn comes from every day at 7. And then I have another page that I've kind of been ignoring because I notice I'm having more success streaming from my timeline on Facebook. So the Yankee Show page was supposed to be the page that the are we glitching on Facebook every like 45 seconds, or is that just on my end? I'm trying to find out the answers to some of these things because I'm not noticing that happening on YouTube, and they're getting the exact same feed. So that's something I'm trying to find out here while we have our conversation. But apparently there's no echo in this set because Kathy says we got good sound. And over 17,000 turned out in Tacoma. Now I feel like we should go back to the Burn set. Helen says Gingrich is even screaming about Bernie getting screwed. Jesus. Shelley says we're good on Facebook. No glitching here for me. Okay, I'm using the new... Facebook has a new streaming deck, like what I see. So I think it's just a glitch in that I'm noticing. Because it's happening, it's only happening on Facebook, and it's happening on my end only. Dion says no glitch. But, let me see. I'm still blown away. Kathy, that blows me away that you did that. The super chat is neat. Kathy, by the way, for those of you just joining us or that didn't know, donated to the show today. This is an independent show. And we have a Patreon and a way to donate on PayPal set up. But we're going to grow and grow and grow. And Kathy believes in that. So she donated through Super Chat. That's something you can do on YouTube now. For those of you on Facebook don't know what I'm talking about. You can donate through there. But what I was going to say is I'm terrified because the comment, and it features it and highlights it when you do a Super Chat. And you're supposed to acknowledge it right away. And I worry because I need another device so that I can see exactly what's going on in both places, because I kind of have to look at one or the other. I kind of have to look and focus on YouTube or Facebook at a time. And I want to get back to including VK, so then I would need 3 things. But we're going to head in that direction, and it's through support of the show that we're going to get there. So thank you to Kathy. That was really awesome. And also our patron. We have one patron right now currently. And thank you very much to Ginger. So I really appreciate that and people supporting the show. And that's neat to me. But we're experimenting right now. This is Fun Feed. And we got a good group. I'm glad to see that. A lot of cool people here. We can talk about absolutely anything that you want and get into anything that you want. I'm going to go for a while, just so you know. I had a marathon planned out and an idea planned out to keep going because, like I said, I'm trying to grow streaming on the YouTube channel and figure out how to do it. I don't even know how to do it. It's different. I've been looking around. I don't know if my brand of streaming would catch on YouTube because it hasn't at this point. It has a core group, but James knows what I'm talking about. There's something missing, I think, that I need to incorporate to grow it on YouTube. Kathy says, where's Kilo? Yeah, I know. Kilo's always here. James says you use too many trigger words like legal propaganda. And he is bad. They got to protect people from people like James. You can't handle all that truth. That's also why they got to protect people from people like me. That's also why we raise money on Patreon, PayPal, and now Super Chat, because I can't get monetized. I'm now qualified for monetization, but every video that I have signed up to be monetized, it's been returned back to me that it's limited monetization, not suitable for advertisers. Ocean Shores, that sounds really neat, and from the name of it alone, it sounds like a place where you just look out on the ocean. Is that what it is, or is it like a strip mall with a cool name? I don't know what Ocean Shores is. Sounds cool though. That's what Nissa says she wants to do. But let's see. What should we do here? Is there any interest in seeing this video? Has anyone seen this video? I want I want to play this at some point. So I'm just seeing if the current group wants to see it, cuz I want to talk about it a little bit, cuz I actually think I need to make a longer version. This is my second crack at the Titanic swap conspiracy, and I don't think I covered enough of it. The more I look into it, the more I'm convinced that the ship at the bottom of the ocean is the Olympic, and that the Titanic actually went on and had a successful life as as the Olympic. The Olympic was too heavily damaged to have gone on for 25 years and hadn't done all that it did, and had even a military career under its belt. It was too heavily damaged. It couldn't have been possibly repaired without being completely rebuilt. So I think I'm going to selfishly play it if no one tells me they're not into seeing it. Kathy says, save me from James. I can't handle the truth. I'll protect you. Wink, wink. I won't be able to because, like I said, I talk about too many things that they don't want talked about. They don't want brought up. I got to figure out why the vintage set has audio problems, but we will figure it out. I'm going to also make cooler sets, and something else I want to figure out down the road after I get a better camera is how to do green screens so that everything doesn't have a curtain behind me. Although, it's not that bad. I think it looks okay. I just want the camera back a little further. So, right now, I'm using a camera my son gave me, and it's really cool, but I can't mount it to anything, and it's. I just want I want one that's on a stand and backed out a little bit, but that's on down the road. I also want better editing software. That's something I need to get. Let's see it, Dion says. All right. That's it. That's all I needed was one person to say it was okay. So let's see. You know what? When I was telling you about the video, I didn't realize you couldn't see what I was doing, because I didn't realize I hadn't changed the set to the screen capture set. But let's see. Let's go back to that. That's the only thing that's distracting is that. Although it's kind of cool, I guess. I'll have to look at it and see what that actually looks like when that happens. But this video, I want to check. I'm experimenting with audio levels and showing you cool things that I've made. This is my Titanic swap video. It's about the fact, I'm now convinced, the fact that the Titanic and the Olympic were swapped. And it is not the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean, but the Olympic. And this video explains why, but I kind of feel like I should make a longer form video of it. Let me know what you think. In the early morning hours of April 15, 1912, the RMS Titanic sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, and over 1,500 people lost their lives in this tragic event. Now, the story of the sinking of the Titanic is one in which you will find that when you really look into it, you will leave it with more questions than you do answers. One of these questions is whether or not it is actually the wreckage of the Titanic that rests at the bottom of the Atlantic at all. You see, many people believe that it is not the Titanic that sank that morning, but rather her sister ship, the Olympic. And on this episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to look into whether the Titanic disaster was actually an insurance scam gone horribly wrong, and look at why people would believe this theory, which implies not only that the ships were swapped, but that they knew that it would sink. The story begins with the White Star Line, who had invested heavily in these two luxury liners. These ships were to be the pinnacle of their fleet, unmatched in elegance and class, and they needed them to be a huge success to pay off their investment. The Olympic was completed first, but instead of a begin to a return on their heavy investment, the Olympic was plagued with problems from its beginning, and on just her fifth voyage, she collided with the British naval cruiser, the HMS Hawke. The two ships were traveling parallel to each other, and the Olympic turned to starboard. But with its size and wide turning radius, this didn't give the captain of the HMS Hawke time to react, and the Hawke's bow, which had been designed to sink ships by ramming them, collided with the Olympic's starboard side, tearing two large holes above and below the waterline and flooding two of her watertight compartments. The hilt of the Olympic was twisted, which caused a noticeable list to port that would be permanent. Now, the Olympic was able to limp back to port, but the HMS Hawke had suffered severe damage and had nearly capsized, but was later repaired at the White Star Line's expense. You see, the fault of the accident didn't end up mattering much because it involved a military craft. So the White Star Line ended up being found at fault and responsible for the expensive repairs to the HMS Hawke, and also left holding the bag on the heavily damaged Olympic. And this put the White Star Line in trouble because they had already heavily bet on these two ships, and their investment was hemorrhaging money instead of creating it. So now they were left with a nearly finished Titanic and a heavily damaged Olympic that they had to try to repair. It took 2 weeks of work just to get the Olympic in good enough shape to get her back to Belfast. And then by pulling resources from the construction of the Titanic, in just another 6 weeks, they were able to get her in good enough shape to go back out to sea. You see, it was said that to fully repair the damage done to the Olympic, she would have had to be cut in two and have a new frame inserted, so a full repair was out of the question financially for White Star. So the Olympic was patched up and sent back out to sea, but during one of her first trips out, she struck an undersea shipwreck, causing damage to a propeller, and once again had to return to Belfast for more repairs. The damaged propeller was taken from the not yet in service but nearly complete Titanic, so it was already stamped Titanic and numbered 401. But as we said, the White Star Line was in a tough spot. They weren't getting a return on their investment, and the Titanic wasn't ready for launch yet. The Olympic was badly damaged and also plagued with bad luck. They needed to turn this around, and the way they are said to have done that is to come up with the idea to switch the two ships. The Olympic and Titanic were nearly identical, and the theory goes that the White Star Line saw that they were going to take an expensive bath on the Olympic, and that the remaining half of their fleet couldn't possibly recoup their losses because the Olympic was too expensive to repair properly. But they had proven that they could patch it up enough and deal with its flaws, like the permanent list to port problem, enough to send it out at least one more time. But for how long could they keep doing that? The damage that had been done to it was all uncovered by insurance, and further damage to it would most likely put it out of commission for good. But if you rename it the Titanic, you can insure it like a brand new ship, and then if something were to happen, it would be fully covered. And this is what people believe happened, and I find the story very compelling. So far, it makes perfect sense to me and sounds exactly like something that billionaires do every day. All you have to do is rebrand the ship Titanic, and then let it have an unfortunate accident that you can claim insurance on and recoup your losses. Then you have a brand new ship ready to go and the money to replace the one that you had lost. Makes perfect sense to me, and that is why many people believe that this is what took place. They think that what happened next was the White Star Line switched the nameplates, lifeboats, and all identifying items on board each ship. But for the most part, everything on board would have been standard White Star property that would be virtually identical. But after they had switched everything identifying, they had sent out the patched up Olympic as the Titanic, planning an event. What people believed they had in mind was they would send out the Titanic on a doomed voyage that they would undersell and then shadow it with another ship that could be nearby to rescue the passengers. Now, it didn't work out that way, but you've come this far, so come a little further, and I'll tell you why people think that this is what happened. Around the same time that the White Star Line was having their financial troubles, some other financial problems were also brewing. A collection of elite billionaires had gathered at Jekyll Island and had plans to enact a central banking system in this country that ended up becoming the Federal Reserve. But at the time, not all the rich and powerful men were on board with the creation of the Federal Reserve, most noteworthy of which would be John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus, all three of which died in the sinking of the Titanic. These three men were said to be traveling to America to fight the formation of the Federal Reserve, and all happened to perish together on the way to do so. Three very wealthy men on their way to try to stop other very wealthy men from putting into place what we now know to be the biggest scam in history? Coincidence? Well, it'd be a big one. But in the skeptic's defense, the odds are probably similar to the odds of all three even being in the same place at the same time. But another interesting coincidence involving the super rich and the Titanic is with cancellations. Over 50 big names canceled last minute, including billionaire J.P. Morgan, who had originally planned to travel on the Titanic, but came down ill and canceled last minute. Luckily, he had all of his items removed before the ship left port, including an expensive statue collection that he was permanently transporting to the States, but decided better of it at the last minute. Along with financial elites all canceling their voyage on this, at the time, top-of-the-line luxury liner, they also offered last-minute first-class seekers second-class accommodations, which is odd unless they just didn't want them to buy tickets. In fact, another odd bit of coincidence is that Titanic's maiden voyage, for as big as an event as it was, both for the time and for the White Star Line, was very underpromoted and undersold. It left port only half full as a result, thankfully in hindsight, but very odd for the time and size of such an event, don't you think? So where we're at now in the story is that there's evidence of foreknowledge in the elite community, and also evidence that they underpromoted the event and discouraged passengers from buying tickets, if only in the end result of it leaving port half full. But as we mentioned earlier, they are planning insurance fraud, not murder at this point. So they are planning to rescue the survivors. And that's where the story is at this point. And so far, it all still makes very good sense to me. I think you could pull off switching the ships. And if you could control the crew manning that ship, you could pull the whole thing off. Enter Captain John Smith. Captain Smith had a long history with the White Star Line, and was also captain during both of the Olympics mishaps. But those weren't the only blemishes on Smith's record. He was known to be quite a hot dog that drove his ships like speedboats, and his record was full of accidents. So Captain Smith was in danger of losing his prestigious high-paying job. Now that makes him desperate, hence easy to control, so he makes perfect sense for a fall guy to take this ship on its first and last ride. Now, Captain Smith's only request in taking on the Titanic's maiden voyage was that he get to choose his own crew, which is believed to be how Captain Smith could control what his role would have been in this conspiracy. So now we have our conspirators in place, and a crew to man the ship that will play ball in what they're planning. But for this to work and not be murder, they'd still need a rescue ship in place. But how could you arrange that? Well, remember J.P. Morgan, who fell ill and couldn't make his journey on the Titanic? Well, it also turns out that J.P. Morgan just happens to own the White Star Line, and many other things, including another noteworthy ship in the Titanic story, the Californian. Now, the Californian had left Belfast under strange conditions. The conditions were strange because at the time there was a coal shortage, and coal was being used sparingly, with ships being sent out with only what they needed for their journey. But the Californian had left port carrying no passengers and only a small shipment of 3,000 woolen blankets and clothing, but it left fully stocked up on coal. The Californian was heading to Boston, but also strangely stopped in an ice field overnight, 12 miles from what ended up being the final resting place of the Titanic on the evening of the 14th, at the command of her captain, Stanley Lord. Lord is also said to have been anxious that night and slept on his couch fully dressed with his crew on high alert and the boilers ordered to be ready to go at a moment's notice, even though they planned to be stationary for the entire night. Captain Lord had all of his lookouts searching the sky for distress rockets. Another noteworthy coincidence is the night that the Titanic sank, she received only 6 radio messages, but of those 6, 3 were from the Californian. 3 separate messages, giving just the Californian's position and that they were stopped for the night. All 3 messages addressed personally to Captain Smith, as if Captain Lord wanted Captain Smith to be sure that they were ready and in place. Now, many researchers believe that the Californian's odd behavior that night was because she was supposed to be the rescue ship when the Titanic went down. It is suggested that it was a navigation error that led to the Californian being stopped in the wrong spot and too far away from the site the Titanic ended up sinking, but that the original plan, and in fact the whole purpose for the Californian's journey, was to rescue the survivors of the pre-planned Titanic disaster. Now, the Californian and Captain Lord will re-enter the story later on to add to the coincidences that are going on, but for now, let's just look more into what went on with the Titanic that night. Captain Smith had chosen a path directly through a known ice field and had the ship traveling at full steam ahead, which may sound erratic, but was actually standard practice traveling through ice fields at the time. The idea was that any object that was big enough to damage the ship would be seen well enough in advance to avoid it. And that should have been true. All reports of visibility on the night that Titanic sank were positive. Visibility was said to be good for up to 5 to 6 miles and crystal clear. In fact, in later testimony, Second Officer Lightholder said that visibility was at least 2 miles and that an iceberg should have easily been seen at that distance. But the evening that the Titanic sank, Captain Smith also is said to have slept in his uniform, while First Officer Murdoch was in charge on deck and was standing on the bridge on the starboard side when he first saw the iceberg. And for some reason, he ordered the ship turned to port and engines full astern, reversing the engines and actually increasing the risk of a collision with the iceberg. After the collision with the iceberg, Captain Smith took back command on deck, but his officers didn't immediately begin to respond like there was any trouble. They didn't seem to act concerned or be rushing around, almost as if Smith and his crew expected to be rescued. The crew is said to have been moving very slowly preparing evacuation from the ship, waiting 45 minutes to even prepare the lifeboats. In fact, the first lifeboat wasn't even launched until after an hour and 25 minutes had passed. Meanwhile, on the Californian, Captain Lord had his lookouts searching for red, white, and blue distress rockets. Lookouts had reported sighting low-flying white rockets commonly used by fishing vessels, but no high-flying rockets of any color were reported, and Captain Lord had checked in with them regularly. Now, like we had established, it is theorized that the Californian is laying in wait to rescue the survivors, and it would have worked too, but the Titanic wasn't where she thought she was. The Titanic's navigator had miscalculated their location, and the location that was given to Captain Smith was 12 miles off from where they actually were. Captain Smith wasn't where he thought he was when the Titanic was going down, and would have had no reason to doubt that the plan was going off without a hitch. That explains the delayed reaction by his men. They thought they'd be rescued. But rescue never came, as we all know, and the Titanic sank to the bottom of the Atlantic, killing over 1,500 passengers and crew. The resulting inquiries into the disaster were a complete and total sham. To begin with, the crew was immediately made to sign documents of silence on the incident, and all of them knew that they would never be able to find work again if they violated them, and also face jail time. Lord Massey, a famously corrupt judge, ruled over the British inquiry, and controlled the narrative the entire time in the courtroom to protect the White Star Line, always shifting blame back to Captain Stanley Lord of the Californian. And it is there that the blame ended up. They claimed that the low-flying white rockets that Lord's men repeated seeing were actually the Titanic's, and that the Californians should have rescued the survivors. Captain Lord fought until his death to clear his name of the Titanic tragedy and to get a new investigation into the event, but unfortunately, it never happened. But many researchers in the time since have compiled a compelling case that the Titanic was actually a massive insurance scam gone horribly wrong, and that the Titanic never did actually sink, and actually went on successfully for another 25 years as the Olympic. So far in this video, we've established financial motive for this theory, but what else is there to this story? Well, in 1912, they had no way of getting to the wreckage. But in 1985, the wreckage of the Titanic was discovered and has since been explored many times, and some interesting things have turned up. For one, remember that propeller we talked about earlier that was taken from the Titanic and put on the Olympic, stamped 401? Well, that propeller that should not be on the Titanic because it was taken and placed on the Olympic is in the wreckage. Also, evidence of gray paint on the undercoat has been found in the wreckage, and that's quite interesting because one of the few differences in the two ships was that gray paint was only used on the Olympic. The Titanic had black undercoating. Another noteworthy find in the wreckage is in the nameplate of the ship. Names of ships were commonly etched into the hull in those days, but in Titanic's wreckage, it is revealed that its was riveted on, but a section of it has fallen off, and underneath is what looks like an engraved M and P. Now there is no M or P in Titanic, but there are in Olympic. But what else is there though? Well, as I said earlier, there was a national coal strike going on during the launch of the Titanic. But despite the increase in unemployment as a result, the Titanic struggled to find a crew, with many refusing to work for them for any price. You see, there was a rumor going around the docks that the Titanic was doomed, and that the two ships had been swapped, and even desperate men wouldn't work on the Titanic. It is said that those rumors could have been another factor in the ship being only half full of passengers when she left port. Did these rumors also keep people from going on Titanic's maiden voyage? As I've mentioned, more than 50 wealthy and prestigious passengers took ill suddenly and canceled their trips on the Titanic last minute. Could they have been tipped off? Maybe by the money man behind all of this himself, J.P. Morgan? Easily. Another unusual and noteworthy piece of evidence for the swap comes from when the Olympic was finally retired and stripped down of the wood paneling and even the first-class staircase, which were used to decorate the White Swan Hotel in the United Kingdom. Now, this paneling and staircase show number stamps that read 401, which, as you'll remember from the propeller, was the number given to the Titanic. The Olympic was branded 400. Now, shouldn't these relics match the stamp of the ship that they came from? But wait, there's more. Remember the list to port that the Olympic would always have after its collision with the HMS Hawk? The Titanic shouldn't have had any such list, but many survivors mentioned there being a noticeable list to port, and one second-class survivor, Lawrence Beasley, who also happened to be a science teacher, also reported on the list as well in one of the first books ever written about the Titanic disaster. The fact is, there is a lot of evidence and plenty of motive for this switch. For all those who say it couldn't happen, I would have to ask at this point, why not? The pictures? Well, let me ask you this. This was 1912. Not even that many images exist of the Titanic and the Olympic, and hardly any media existed at the time. How do you even know, other than what you've been told about the differences between the Titanic and the Olympic? In fact, in all promotional White Star materials that were used for Titanic's promotion, all of the images are of the Olympic, inside and out, not the Titanic. And I say we don't know the truth of this story. That much is crystal clear at this point for me. But is the Olympic actually the ship that rests at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean? Maybe. I have to say it looks very much like this is what happened. The motive is undeniable, and the evidence is hard to ignore. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Did the Titanic ever really sink? Tell me what you think, And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Conspiracy Theories and Chill from me on Things and Stuff.
One of the most poignant exhibits in this museum is a little pair of shoes. They're only about 14 centimeters long, but the story they tell runs volumes.
I stepped out of the room for a second. I was out there checking the sound and it ended quickly on me. That caught me by surprise. Let me switch here. What scene to do? Let's try the web browser set for just a little bit. I'm just checking to see if there's echo in here. This set is so I can bring up web pages and look at stuff. So let's look at what's been going on during the video. See that, guys? There's 3 here. Should be 3 likes. It's fantastic stuff. And we're doing a marathon because I'm learning the computer and I love hanging out with you guys. So we have a fantastic group. I'm going to go as long as there's something cool to talk about and something cool to do with you guys and hang out, because there's cool people here on Facebook as well. Dion says cool. What'd you guys think of that video, the Titanic video? What did you think of that? James says this vid needs kept in long form. So make a longer version of the Titanic video. We could go way more into it because you could go into all of the stuff. See what the Facebook streaming deck looks like now? It's weird. It's all different now. And I guess you can do stuff like I can add polls maybe during the feed. I'm not sure. I'd have to explore and practice. And that's what we're doing. I learn by doing. And there we go. 3 likes, 3 people here. Perfect. That's beautiful. I love when the likes go up because a lot of people don't even think about it. You know, it helps though. It helps with independent shows and independent media when you participate, when we have an active comment thread, and when there is likes on the video because it gets it out in the algorithm. Even though they're suppressing it, I mean, stuff like what I do is shadow banned anyway, but I think I'm going to pull up a different, let me pull back this set. I kind of like this one. This one's neat for the conspiracy theory show. This is the one I'm thinking about using tomorrow night. By the way, Conspiracy Theories and Chill is on every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central. And not this week, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, I will be interviewing Freemason David Long. He's going to be coming on and explaining to me how Freemasonry is a secret society, but they are not nefarious. And everything's on the up and up with them. And we're going to explore all kinds of things because I got questions and I would love to interview a Freemason. This is really exciting for me. So that's coming up on Conspiracy Theories and Chill next week, as long as everything works out. But we narrowed it down and settled on a date. So next week I'll be doing that on Conspiracy Theories and Chill. And then the other show that we do every day is the Daily Burn, and that's at 7. So all of that hubs out of the Me on Things and Stuff YouTube channel, which I shared a link in the feed to the channel. So go there and subscribe. That way you can follow all the shows. Because like I said, I do them from different pages and from my timeline, etc. and stuff like that. So, but if you go to that, you can, the Me on Things and Stuff channel, you can subscribe and follow everything that we do. But we're going to do a little bit of a marathon because I want to experiment with some other stuff. I think I've got it almost down. I like the centering for the video. I thought the video looked really good. I think I need to bring it up just a tad, but it's damn near perfect. I noticed at times the bottom was cut off. I'm trying to find, I want to find the next video I'm going to play because I'm going to go for a while. Now, the reason I'm doing the videos is because I'm trying to learn how to do it. Because I like that it adds something to the stream and it gives us things to boost the comments and boost the conversation, and it also gives me a chance to do things because I need to get some help with moderators. Anyone that likes doing that kind of stuff, if you see this and run across it, I wouldn't even know how to find one, but that's what I've heard I need is help with moderators, moderating, and stuff like that. I wouldn't even know how to go about finding people to do that. Because how do you find people that work for free? You know what I mean? Like, hey, by the way, do you have like free time that I can just have for my thing? But if that's something that you like doing and would be interesting in doing or know how to do, I would love to know. Because I was on a stream and like I said, tomorrow at 9:30 Central, I will be on live with System Failure, which is another YouTube channel, and we're going to be talking about whatever. I've just agreed to come on. We didn't have anything ironed in stone that we were going to talk about, so it could go anywhere. James says, it used to buff bad for me when I talked. It doesn't now. That's stuff we're trying to find out. I'm trying to learn what this computer can do and if it improves things for the viewers, because I need to get the settings right, because if I'm giving you a broken feed, then I'm doing you a disservice. It doesn't matter how interesting or fun what we're talking about is if everything's glitching and it doesn't work well for you. So that's why we got the new computer, and I'm so happy that we finally have it and are getting everything off the ground with it. But I'm trying to experiment with it and see what works and what doesn't. We can talk about absolutely anything though. So let me know in the comments, because we're just going to experiment and do a marathon. That's why on Facebook I didn't even name this feed, and on YouTube I named it Motas Live, because it's going to be a little bit of everything. And look at that, they match again. 4 people here on YouTube, 4 likes. Let's see if we can keep that going. Let's see if we can keep that going. Let's see if we can grow the amount of people that are here on YouTube, and then also keep the likes and the comments, or likes and the people here at the same level. That would be neat. So I'm going to share the link to the YouTube video one more time over on Facebook. And pop in. And that's the YouTube channel. Same show, just on YouTube. We're live right now. But I'm going to hang out for a while, and we're going to talk about different things. I've got stuff planned. And again, I want to say another thank you, just in case she's still here, to Kathy, who is a supporter of the show. And she supported us today through Super Chat. That's something that you can do on YouTube now on this channel, because we have achieved YouTube partner level 1,000 subscribers. We finally hit it. So we're trying to stay there and stay above and keep going up. So come on over, subscribe to the YouTube channel and check it out. But I'm going to show you some videos and some reasons why you should subscribe. And the reason why I'm doing that is because long videos seem to do better on YouTube. And I'm going to see, I also want to experiment if Facebook will hang with me through long video and if a marathon feed works out, because I like the idea of doing those. I'm just experimenting with different things and learning the computer as I go, and I'm over explaining it. But I'm looking for a video to show in the meantime while I wait for new things to talk about. But what is on you guys' mind? What do you guys want to discuss? What's important to you that's going on? And James, does it buffer still when you comment? Are you still noticing buffering problems? I'm hoping that that's a thing of the past for you. But let me know things you guys want to get into and directions you want this to go. and what you want to talk about. Because we can get into a little bit of everything. I want to show people what the YouTube channel's about. You know, we did a subscription drive last night and we got like 12 subscribers. It went pretty good. But this, I'm just trying to get settings right, make sure the videos are right and they're centered good and everything looks and sounds good. I mostly want to get quality right and just bring some exposure to some things that haven't gotten enough exposure, in my opinion. But I noticed on YouTube when I was watching these other streams and watching these other streamers, they play other people's videos. I don't know how they do that. Anytime I've even used video clips in a video, I get flagged and copyright strikes on YouTube, and the video gets taken down. So I don't know how they've done that. And I'm thinking about trying it, but I know for sure that this will get flagged and copyright striked if I do. But maybe that doesn't matter, because really all that means is that I won't be able to get monetization. And like I said, every video I make, even the Bernie stuff, even the political revolution stuff, the Daily Burn, is disqualified for monetization. You know that the Daily Burn, I do a political show every day for the political revolution, a motivational show. It's not suitable for advertisers. I don't even cuss on that show. It never happens. Well, hardly ever. It happens accidentally. It's going to happen from time to time, of course. But I try really hard not to. I'm looking for another video. Let me know anything you guys want to hear about. But I'm looking for something else that I want to play that hasn't been played in a while. Y'all ever heard about the Denver airport conspiracy? You want to hear it delivered in a way that reminds you of the FedEx guy from the old commercials? I am talking so fast in this video that it blows me away when I listen to it back. I have got to remake this video that I'm about to show you because I am going so fast. But this conspiracy, I'm going to play this and then I want to talk to you guys about it, is one of my favorites. So let me switch back to the screen capture set and I'm going to play this video real quick. It's a short one, so this will be real quick. Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. Today we're going to discuss the Illuminati's airport. The Denver International Airport was opened February 28, 1995 after numerous delays and coming in a whopping $2 billion over its already inflated budget. In the end, the Denver International Airport cost $4.8 billion to construct, and no one knows who financed it. It is anonymously funded. No one knows why it was built either. Denver already had a functioning airport, and this new airport offered no new technological advances. Then there's the massive size of it. The Denver International Airport covers 53 square miles. That's 2 times as large as the next biggest airport, and more than twice the size of Manhattan. Why the need for such a large airport in Colorado? Well, many people believe that the Denver International Airport is much more than just an airport, and we're going to get into the reasons that people believe that. Let's start off with the construction of the airport. Construction went 16 months past the time projected for the project, and as I said, came in $2.8 billion over budget. Where did all that time and money go? Well, many people believe that there is much more to the Denver International Airport buried underground. You see, during its construction, 5 buildings were built first, and then buried, which is very odd indeed. Many people believe that those buildings are actually bunkers for the world's elite in the event of an apocalypse. Underneath the Denver International Airport also exists the world's largest tunnel system for seemingly no purpose whatsoever. Then you have the airport itself. Despite being the largest airport in the world, it only has 4 working runways, which oddly form a swastika when viewed from above. There are also many buildings and terminals in the airport that are kept closed off to the public and seem to be of no real purpose at all. Next, we'll talk about the airport's dedication stone. Like I said, the Denver International Airport was anonymously funded, so the dedication stone is all we really have to go off of as to who is responsible for its existence. Strangely enough, on the dedication stone, that credit goes to the New World Airport Commission, which does not exist. There is also Masonic symbols on the dedication stone, and the date inscribed mysteriously doesn't coincide with the actual opening date, but does add up to 33, which is the highest level of Freemasonry, or the illuminated ones. Now let's get into the weird artwork of the Denver International Airport. We'll start off with Lucifer. When you touch down at Denver International Airport, you'll notice a demonic-looking 40-foot statue of a blue horse with glowing red eyes. This statue is called the Mustang statue, but is known to the public as Lucifer. And Lucifer is said to be cursed. He killed his creator. The head of the statue fell on and killed its designer when it was being built. Legend has it that Lucifer represents death, the fourth horse of the apocalypse. And the apocalyptic imagery at the Denver International Airport doesn't end there. It is all over, most notably on the airport's giant murals in the Jefferson Terminal. 4 giant murals can be found in this terminal depicting an apocalyptic theme. The murals show humanity being wiped out by a huge green figure with a sword and an AK-47. The sword is stabbing a dove, representing peace. They then go on to show the death of the world and the animals, and while it does end with the rebirth of life and society, it is a cryptic piece and out of place in an airport. The airport is also strewn with weird gargoyle statues popping out of suitcases. The Denver International Airport embraces the conspiracy theories. In fact, construction is currently underway at the airport, and many signs like these are found all throughout the airport, joking that they are expanding the bunkers and rail system, or building on for the lizard people and aliens that live underground. Funny, I admit, but an odd advertising strategy for an airport. I believe that the most likely explanation for the Denver International Airport is that it is a massive underground bunker for the world's elite in the event of an apocalypse. But let me know what you think about the Denver International Airport in the comments below. Thanks for watching Conspiracy Theories and Chill, and I'll see you next time right here. Remember... Doesn't it sound like I'm being chased? Why in the hell am I going so fast? Every time I listen to that back, I'm like, what was I thinking? You know, I did that in stand-up once. They had me on a limited amount of time in my set, and I had to follow somebody that was really, really funny. So I thought, well, I'll just try to cram 10 minutes worth of jokes into 5. No, you can't talk that fast. It's distracting. And you see why I need to remake that video. That's one I've got to remake. I love that video because the Denver International Airport is fascinating. Wow, there's a lot of people here on Facebook. I think I know what I did. And they are amazing. By the way, watch parties are fantastic. And I'm kind of happy that I accidentally started one. But this is a marathon stream. We are going to watch some videos and talk, hang out, talk about different things. I want to kind of show the YouTube channel off. And the other reason is I'm afraid to play other people's videos. I'm afraid to play a video that's not my own because I don't want to get pulled down. I already have one copyright strike on YouTube, and I'm afraid to use other people's stuff because it might get me pulled down. You know what I mean? So I've been playing my own videos, and we're just hanging out, having a marathon. I'm trying to learn the new streaming computer and figure out what my limits are and what I can and cannot do with it. So we just need topics to talk about, and that was the Denver International Airport video. Now, the Denver International Airport is fascinating. Now, it may not be Illuminati. It may not be the Illuminati's airport. There may not be a city underground. There may not be a huge tunnel network underground. All of that could be crazy. But they are playing up to it. They are trying to make people believe that that is what's going on, that that is what's happening. And why are they doing that? Why is it that important to them to make people believe that there is Illuminati influence going on at the Denver International Airport? Why is that something they're trying to convince people of? They're trying their ass off. They've got masonry imagery everywhere, demon statues everywhere. Those murals are very creepy, but their dedication stone heavily implies Illuminati involvement. And they play up to it in their advertising. They play up to it in their promotional materials. It's crazy. It's crazy what they do and what they rub in people's faces. But there's a few things I plan to get into with you guys today, and we're just going to hang out and do a marathon. But let me know what you want to talk about. I do want to hear from you. We are live. This is a live show, and we will pop back in and out and talk about anything at all. So I want you to know that even during the videos, talk and comment and participate, because this is going to be a marathon, but it is to promote the YouTube channel, and it is to learn how to use the YouTube channel, basically, how to get better at it. And these are new things I'm trying to attempt. This is probably my third attempt at a marathon like this. But I've noticed that on YouTube they do very well. And you kind of need it, to have a successful stream. Any of the successful streamers that I've been watching, when they stream on YouTube, stream for hours. And I want to be able to do that, but I think I need to line up guests and people to interview, so I'm going to do stuff like that. So there'll be more of that coming up. And like I said, Wednesday night at 8 on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, we'll have David on, who is a Freemason. And he's already said he can't and won't answer everything, but that he will talk about a great deal and will explain a lot about Freemasonry and about the Freemasons and things like that. So I am excited about that. And that will be really neat. But what do you guys want to get into? What do you want to talk about? What kind of video topics would you like to see played during the marathon, during the discussion? But James says I'm the first one to tell him about the Titanic swap conspiracy. And I think that is awesome that we broke that to James. I love giving new truth to anybody, and discovering new truth is the best. When you stumble upon something new in the truth movement, it blows you away. But real quick, while I wait for comments on what you guys want to get into, I am going to do this quick video on why cannabis is really illegal, just in case Dion will hear. This is an issue that is important to both me and Dion, and we need to spread as much truth as we can about the reality behind cannabis and its illegalization. On this episode of Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to talk about cannabis and why on earth this miracle plant of hundreds of uses is still illegal at the federal level here in the United States. How come it's still illegal federally? Its medical benefits are proven, and the states where it's been legalized have shown how beneficial cannabis can be to the economy. So why isn't it legal yet? Why is it illegal at all? And how is it considered as dangerous as heroin? Well, to fully answer that question, you have to go back to how and why it became an illegal drug in the first place. In the early 1900s, just after the Mexican Revolution, we saw a massive influx of Mexican immigrants in the United States. Also, a large portion of the United States used to be Mexico, and all of these new Americans brought within their language, traditions, and customs. And one of those customs was the use of cannabis as a medicine and a way to relax. Now, cannabis was already widely used here in the States. Most of the medicines in your average medicine cabinet contained it back then. but the Mexican immigrants referred to cannabis as marijuana, which was a foreign term to us. That fact was later used to propagandize the public against cannabis by always referring to it as marijuana. The most famous example of this propaganda was the film Reefer Madness.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance, innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell. In this film, you will see the ease with which this vicious plant can be grown in your neighbor's yard, rolled into harmless-looking cigarettes, hidden in an innocent shoe or watch case.
If you want a good smoke, try one of these.
You will meet Bill, who once took pride in his strong will as he takes the first step toward enslavement.
Of course, if you're afraid.
Smoking the soul-destroying reefer, they find a moment's pleasure, but at a terrible price. Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide, and the ultimate end of the marijuana addict. Hopeless insanity. See this important film now, before it is too late.
Our media propaganda machine made extraordinary claims in the process of demonizing marijuana, saying things like it made men of color violent and caused them to want to sleep with white women, which was used in the push towards passing the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which banned the use and sale of marijuana. The act was later ruled unconstitutional, but it was replaced with the Controlled Substances Act in the 1970s, which established schedules for ranking substances according to their dangerousness and potential for addiction. Cannabis was placed in the most restrictive category, Schedule 1, supposedly as a placeholder while then President Nixon commissioned a report to give a final recommendation. The Schaefer Commission, as the commission was called, declared that marijuana should not be in Schedule 1 and even doubted its designation as an illicit substance. However, President Nixon discounted the recommendation of the commission, and marijuana remains a Schedule 1 substance to this day. So racism and cultural ignorance played a very big part in cannabis becoming illegal. But another huge factor was greed. William Randolph Hearst, who had massive interest in the timber industry and also just happened to have a monopoly of the press, led the fight against cannabis because of its close cousin hemp's many uses. You see, hemp is a very versatile and useful plant, but at first it was very hard to process and work with. That is, until an invention came along that made hemp much easier to work with. And this threatened Hearst's interest in timber because with this new invention, hemp was set to replace timber in manufacturing. So, money and greed played a massive role as well. What I've noticed played no part at all is the dangerousness of the plant itself. Even in the propaganda campaign, they couldn't focus on actual dangers of cannabis use, just imagined ones based in ignorance and racism. Now, why would that be? Would it be because there really aren't any? No one, not one person ever, has ever overdosed on cannabis. It's never happened. But do you know what has happened with the use of cannabis that you don't hear enough about? Real life, all natural miracles. Children who've lived with thousands of seizures a day can now live normal lives just from the use of CBD oil, which is extracted from cannabis but does not contain the THC that gets you high. But it can reduce the amount of seizures these children have down to 2 or 3 a day, if not cure them entirely. It can also stop seizures as they're happening.
My goal for him is to hear his voice, to hear him talk. We just want him to be happy.
This is more than just make it so that he doesn't have seizures anymore. I want him back. I want him to thrive and live and enjoy us. And if a plant can do that, why do we object?
Some of the kids clearly became more verbal, better coordination. I had one child who started walking while they were using the medications.
We instantly saw results. He was smiling again. We noticed the decrease in seizures. He was able to transition. And at this point, he was finally able to gain cognitive skills.
People with Parkinson's disease can calm their bodies down and be able to function normally through the use of cannabis alone.
Hi, Larry. How are you? Come in. Come in. Good to see you. How you feeling? It's been a bit of a rough week, really. And the best way to take it is put it under your tongue and rub it in your cheek. Don't do too much. You're going to be asleep all afternoon. You know what you should do? No, don't try to communicate. Just relax. See what happens.
We know from animal experiments that the endogenous cannabinoid system is very important in regulating motor activity, that very type of activity that is impaired in Parkinson's disease. From animal experiments, we also know that boosting certain branches of the endocannabinoid system is helpful in relieving symptoms of Parkinson's. Finally, from anecdotal information, we know that certain patients who smoke marijuana experience relief of their symptoms.
I think you're calmed down. So quickly. Isn't it amazing?
He used just a single drop, and his hands afterwards were rock steady, and the dyskinesia left.
It was swing back. It works most of the time. In fact, it's... Did you guys eat lunch? Are you hungry now? 1 a.m. Actually,
A person like me could really use marijuana. It makes me pretty angry that I can't get it in my home state.
The number one frustration that I have is knowing that there is this untapped potential that comes from what marijuana is teaching us to generate new medicines, and being stuck because of financial issues or political issues. That is extremely frustrating.
We now know that medical marijuana controls dyskinesia, and yet it's not available to us.
It cures depression better than any drug ever made. It helps with anxiety, helps people suffering through chemotherapy be able to eat, people with PTSD. It helps ease pain, and in places where marijuana has been legalized, prescription opiate use has been shown to drop dramatically because people are choosing marijuana over their prescription opiate pain medication, which is probably why Big Pharma is the biggest opposer to legalized marijuana today. Now, I could go on and on about the benefits of marijuana. Cannabis is a miracle, in my honest opinion, and the fact that it is illegal is a crime against humanity. Our forefathers were cannabis enthusiasts as well, and I'm sure that they would have protected its use in the Constitution had they thought we'd ever be stupid enough to actually ban its use. But as I said in the beginning, progress is being made. Marijuana use is now legal in some form in 29 states and currently on the ballot in November for many more. It's just a matter of time. It's just a real shame that our current and prior presidents have been too cowardly to be the one who, in my opinion, bravely steps forward to end the hypocrisy of this federal ban on marijuana. It's coming soon for sure, but those of us in less progressive states will just have to wait a little bit longer, I'm afraid. Thanks for watching another Conspiracy Theories and Chill.
Alright, that was that video that I wanted to show while we waited a little bit. But I want that to get us on talking about cannabis for just a second. Cannabis is a miracle plant. It is a crime against humanity that it is illegal. That is a fact. It is not up for debate. Cannabis is a miracle. I fully believe that, and I would argue it with anybody. It has no negative values as I can see. And it's a crime that, like people in that video, like the man with Parkinson's, that he can't have access to that medicine. James says we froze. Got your chat, lost your feed. Oh well. Sorry about that, James. It looks like we're good now. We are going to do a marathon, so we're going to keep going for a while. But right now we're going to talk about cannabis for just a little while. Cannabis, I believe, is a miracle. I fully believe that. And I will defend it to the end. And the fact that it's illegal is a crime against humanity. And it's overpriced, by the way. You know, the places where they legalize it, they're fleecing people for medicine. It's outrageous. So they need to legalize it at the national level so that they can get this under control. Because it is wildly out of control. And I think if it was legalized on the federal level, there would be more competition and etc. that would make it where the black market is not competing with the stores. The black market is the better way to go. Yeah, you can't walk in and pick what flavor you want, but you're not getting fleeced for your medicine, and it's at least functional, you know. So, but hopefully we're not freezing or having any problems right now. That's what we're figuring out. That's what we're experimenting with. We're doing this feed to learn the new computer and to get things solid, because I've got some exciting conspiracy theories and chills coming up and exciting feeds coming up, and I want to make sure that we have all the settings as down as I possibly can. And we're going to look at some videos from my channel during the course of this feed. The ones I have planned coming up have to do with the moon landing and 9/11. 9/11 is my favorite topic, and I've done a lot of videos on 9/11, so I want to show those two to you guys here in a little bit. But hopefully there's still some people here. It looks like we got a group here on YouTube and Facebook, but we're going to stream for a while and keep going. I'm experimenting with the marathon concept as well. So, but right now we're talking about cannabis legalization. Cannabis, I really believe, needs to be legal on the federal level and needs to be made available to people. It should be legal to grow. I really believe that. I believe cannabis is extremely valuable plant, and that we should be able to use it and benefit from it. It's only right. And look how pretty it is. It's a flower, you know. Look how pretty. Look at that. Look at that, crystals. It's beautiful. It's a flower. It's demonized. It's crazy. And it's medicine. It helps people. And it's made illegal. Stops seizures. Does all kinds of things. Has thousands of benefits. Is a miracle. Helps with PTSD. Helps with depression. Helps with anxiety. Helps with all kinds of issues. Is incredibly beneficial. And the fact that it's made illegal, the fact that it's made criminal, is disgusting. It really is. Marijuana is the answer to a lot of things. It's the answer to a lot of financial questions. The money being left on the table out of fear of a plant. And hemp, a highly beneficial cousin of marijuana, being kept from the use of humanity and from people, and the ability to help with things like deforestation and stuff like that with this renewable source, something sustainable. So let me see. Let me ask on Facebook and YouTube. The next video that we play in the next topic for this marathon is either going to be 9/11 or the moon landings. Which one do you guys want to see? Don't know which set we're in. Oh, okay. I'm experimenting with different sets as well. But are you interested in the 9/11 video? Tim Proust's 9/11 had to be an inside job, or the moon landing video? Which one do you want to see first? So let me know. I'm going to wait to see if we get any votes for either one. But we are experimenting, moving back and forth through different things. But we're promoting as well. So this is a promotion feed on Facebook for the YouTube channel. Come over to the YouTube channel. The link is in the comment thread here. Scroll up and find that, and head over to YouTube and subscribe and hang out with us on YouTube, because I'd like to grow that and improve that out. But thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for hanging out, all of you that have been hanging out. I really appreciate it. And if you're just joining us, we are doing a marathon. We are doing a feed marathon to iron out some settings and things on my end, and to explore some things that I think are interesting, and talk about some interesting things and important things with you guys. So I don't know how long we'll go. We'll go for a while. I'm trying to get things perfect for feeds moving forward, get things set to a perfect level for feeds moving forward, and hopefully do an entertaining feed in the meantime. We can talk about absolutely everything. We can get into anything. So anything you want to see, anything you'd like to talk about or get into, let me know in the comments and we can get into it. Because this is live, even though we're stopping from time to time to watch a video. This is a live show. But let me bring it back up. And I think I noticed last time that it needed to go up just a little bit. I don't know if that's going to be enough or too much, but we're going to find out. I needed to tweak the settings a little bit. But let me see if we got an answer on what people wanted to see. Jason says 9/11. 9/11 wins, guys. So here we go. This is my video, Tim Proust. 9/11 had to be an inside job. But let me know in the comments what you want to get into and what you want to talk about. And we'll get into absolutely anything.
The attacks on September 11, 2001 were the event that shook me awake to the fact that there is a nefarious organization of extremely powerful and wealthy people who are willing to do horrific things in order to advance their agenda and maintain their control over our world. Now, I don't know what this group calls themselves, whether it's the Illuminati or the New World Order or just king shits of fuck mountain, nor do I even think it much matters. What I do know from my research since 9/11 is that whatever they may call themselves, there is most certainly a they. They verifiably exist, and they rule over us all, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. That's why I wanted to make a 9/11 video for my channel. I believe that there's absolutely no doubt that 9/11 was an inside job. In my opinion, it's obvious. And I don't believe that's accidental. I think they wanted it to be. I think deep down you're supposed to know something's wrong with the official story. I think that that's part of it. Yes, It's an uncomfortable and frightening truth realizing what really happened on September 11th. And yes, it can drag you down emotionally if you let it. But it can go the other way too. It can be empowering. You can become stronger from learning and accepting the truth. You can only help to make real change once you're fully aware of what is actually going on around you. And plus, the best way to fight a lie is with the truth. And that's the whole point of my channel. 9/11 wasn't just an attack on American buildings and people's lives. It wasn't just a way to cover up trillions of dollars or lose massive amounts of evidence. I mean, it was all that. But it was also an enormous psyop to get the American people to support an endless war against an invisible enemy called terror. A perfect enemy of unlimited supply. And it worked. Our war machine has been using the lie of 9/11 for 17 straight years of multiple, endless wars in the Middle East, killing millions of people in the name of fighting terror, but for the real purpose of controlling oil, drugs, and money. Let's begin this 9/11 journey with the Project for a New American Century. PNAC, for short, was a neoconservative think tank that put out a document called Rebuilding America's Defenses, just a few months before 9/11, mind you, that states in order to move the agenda forward that they wanted in the Middle East would mean all of this war, and they knew that they'd need the average American support for that war. So in their own words from the document, further the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. Less than 6 months later, the largest attack on American soil ever takes place, covered from nearly start to finish, live on television. At 8:46 in the morning, it all began. Commercial jet, American Airlines Flight 11, slammed into Tower 1 of the World Trade Center between the 93rd and 99th floors. From that moment on, every news camera was trained on the Twin Towers. 17 minutes later at 9:03, a second plane slammed into Tower 2 between floors 77 and 85, live on every channel.
What's this other jet doing? What's this other jet doing? Holy fuck!
Oh my god! Oh my god! Jesus fucking Christ!
Completely in one side and out the other.
It just disappeared. It disappeared.
The image of the plane coming in and hitting the tower, followed by the massive fireball created, was one that I believe was staged and meant to be intentionally frightening and seen by all. And it was frightening, of course. Everyone got good and scared. And what do scared Americans do when they're in danger? They look to their leaders and military to protect them, of course. But just an hour and a half later, the next attack happens at, of all possible places, the Pentagon. That's right. The very headquarters of our military, located inside the most heavily protected airspace in the world of the country with the largest military budget on the planet, is broadsided by a commercial jet at 9:37 a.m. near the first floor without even damaging the grass on the lawn. In total, 4 planes flew unmolested in our airspace for nearly 2 hours, most of which well after we knew we were under attack and that planes were being used as the weapons, even after every other flight had been grounded. In other words, our Air Force was defeated 3 out of 4 times, if you believe the official story. These inexperienced terrorist pilots who could barely fly a small Cessna, armed with box cutters, gained control of 4 planes and flew them to successfully hit 75% of their intended targets. Only one group of terrorists failed, the ones on Flight 93, who were reportedly taken over by the passengers, causing the plane to crash in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, completely disappearing into the earth. But that's not all. 3 steel-framed buildings completely collapsed to dust into their own footprint from fire for the first time ever or since in the history of steel-framed buildings, if you believe the official story. And yes, I said 3 buildings. A lot of people forget that the 2 planes in New York took out 3 massive steel-framed buildings. Building 7 of the World Trade Center complex was a 47-story office building and it also collapsed completely into its own footprint at nearly freefall speed later on that evening at 5:20 p.m. This whole event was supposedly carried out by 19 terrorists led by Osama bin Laden from a cave fortress in Afghanistan, if you believe the official story. And speaking of Osama bin Laden, his list of crimes at the FBI on his most wanted list don't even include 9/11, because the FBI says there's no evidence linking Osama bin Laden to 9/11. Yet in the official story, he remains the mastermind behind the attacks. The official story sounds like a B action movie starring someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Only difference is the official 9/11 story has more plot holes than those movies do. Maybe a Steven Seagal film is more accurate. But as far as being a good enough new Pearl Harbor type event to advance their Middle East agenda, it was a blockbuster smash. War hasn't ended since. We're currently in 8, none of which are supported by or even voted on by Congress. And no one blinks an eye to the death and destruction caused by all this war because, well, you've got to stop terrorism. 9/11 scared the average American so much that they dare not question the means taken by their protectors to make sure that it never happens again. This unquestioning acceptance of these endless unnecessary wars is killing people every day, and that blood is on our hands. Too much killing has been done, all based on a lie, and if we continue to stand for it, it will never stop. The people selling that lie deal in deceit and misinformation. So the truth is the most powerful weapon to fight back against them. The truth is really all that can hurt them. So always spread the truth. Because silence is the enemy. Silence is acceptance. Silence is consent. It's not the evil men that allow evil to occur, but the good men who look on and do nothing when they see evil being done that allow evil to thrive. Now, it's been almost 17 years since 9/11 at the time I'm making this video. And as far as in the mind of your average American, people still believe the official story and accept it as justification for the endless wars in the Middle East. It's not that the truth isn't out there. There are many great 9/11 truth documentaries out there, most available for free on YouTube. I'll include some links to them below. There are also many great websites and independent journalists that cover and expose 9/11 truth. The truth is out there, it's just hidden and suppressed. But even with the truth out there, the official story still stands, mostly because of the corrupt propaganda machine that poses as our media. The official story is gospel, no matter what political flavor channel you may watch. Anyone who ever questions the official story is painted as crazy and just talked over and called a conspiracy theorist. The truth is silenced so violently by the media because thought is discouraged when your entire system is built on lies. And 9/11 is an enormous lie. I believe that uncovering the lie of 9/11 is the key to real change and progress in our broken and corrupt system. And that's why I wanted to make a 9/11 truth video. If I can bring just one person to the truth, I can feel like I've at least done some good. I've been following and researching 9/11 since 9/11, so in this video I'm going to go through my biggest reasons that the official story is actually the bullshit conspiracy story. Let's start by looking at the terrorists themselves. Al-Qaeda, a terrorist cell started by the CIA in 1988, with help of their asset on the ground, Tim Osman, otherwise known as Osama bin Laden, planned a massive attack on U.S. soil that would use commercial airliners as weapons to attack significant buildings to scare the pants off the infidels. So, Osama picks out his best 19 men, most of which are from Saudi Arabia for some reason, even though Osama runs Al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan. But anyway, they're from Saudi Arabia, and he sends this hand-picked crew to America to learn how to fly and carry out his master plan. These 19 guys are serious. They're willing to die for their cause. They're so devout to Allah and their jihad against America. These guys are dead set on their 70 virgin reward awaiting in heaven for dying as a martyr. They've come all the way to America, and they begin their training. And it turns out to be pretty easy for them to all get into the country and even enroll into flight schools. None of them did very well in the flight training or even seemed to take it all that seriously. Of all the terrorists said to have attended flight training here in the States, not one could even fly a small Cessna solo. 4 of the 9/11 terrorists, including stateside mastermind Mohammed Atta, were even working with the CIA as they trained for their mission. Able Danger was a classified military planning effort ran by the CIA, led by U.S. Special Operations Command, or SOCOM, and the Defensive Intelligence Agency, DIA. It was created to develop an information operations campaign against transnational terrorism, specifically Al-Qaeda. So Atta and 3 other from the 19 terrorists that pulled off 9/11 were actually working with the CIA up until 9/11 as part of a cell to stop this exact type of terrorism. And just to recap, if you're keeping score at home, that means that including Tim Osman, there are now 5 total CIA assets involved in the 9/11 attacks official story. These devout Muslim men preparing to die for their beliefs also weirdly love strippers, drugs, and booze. Even though to a strict Muslim, all those American-friendly treats are forbidden. Why would these men risk their eternal rewards of 70 smoking, hot, sex-starved virgins for these mere earthly pleasures? These men came here to die for the cause, striking a mighty blow to us white devil infidels. Yet, while they're here, they reportedly lived a frat boy Will Smith in Miami party lifestyle. Anyways, despite being a ragtag crew of party boys who drug it up with strippers but also die for religious reasons, who also can't even take flight school seriously, they all get on board their respective aircrafts on the morning of September 11th with no problem. None of them being stopped by security for the box knives they had brought as weapons to take over the planes. They all just quietly boarded their planes that morning without any trouble at all, and their plan began. All 4 groups gained control of their planes over an hour and 14-minute period. The first plane to be hijacked, Flight 11, was taken over at 8:14 a.m. The last, Flight 93, was taken over at 9:28, well after Flight 175 had hit the South Tower of the World Trade Center, and everyone should have known by then what was happening. So these 19 guys who trained on playground equipment all get their planes and take them over no problem. They all manage to fly them and avoid interception to reach their respective targets except one. And these aren't easy targets or maneuvers carried out by the amateurs. Experienced pilots have real trouble pulling off the moves these amateurs performed on 9/11 in simulators. The Pentagon strike in particular stands out as a great example of the impossible occurring on 9/11. Flight 77 was hijacked at approximately 8:50 above Ohio. It then changes course and heads towards Washington, D.C. It flies unmolested for over 45 minutes, reaches D.C. airspace. Then, instead of just going straight down into the Pentagon, it does a complicated 330-degree descending turn to hit the side of the Pentagon almost level with the ground. It's said that Hani Hanjour, who couldn't fly a Cessna, performed this amazing maneuver with a huge commercial jet, flying at over 500 miles per hour, only hitting 5 light poles and a generator before disappearing entirely into the side of the Pentagon. Even though a commercial airplane has a 57-foot wingspan, as you can see in this photo, it only created about a 16-foot hole in the side of the Pentagon. The wings, I guess, just disintegrated from the crash because they weren't found on the lawn. There was hardly any debris on the lawn of the Pentagon at all, really. People forget that the Pentagon looked like this before the roof collapsed. Most people don't remember it looking like this. They remember it looking more like this. But this was after the roof collapsed later on that morning. The original impact hole is just too small to have been caused by a plane. The exit hole in the C-ring of the Pentagon is also too small. Plus, we're to believe the aluminum nose of an airplane that can be destroyed by a bird went through 5 rings of the Pentagon and created that exit hole. There just isn't any evidence at the Pentagon of a plane hitting it. Of all the available security footage at the Pentagon, only 5 frames of video have ever been released, and none of the 5 frames shows an airplane. Just a plume of smoke crossing the lawn and a huge explosion. Look for yourself. It looks like a missile strike to me. Hundreds of video security tapes with hundreds of angles of the Pentagon were confiscated by the FBI. None of those camera angles show a plane. If so, why not show the public? And those are just the civilian tapes. We're to believe that the Pentagon only has 5 frames of this attack from one bad angle. The Pentagon, one of the most secure buildings that exists on our soil. There's cameras every 3 feet on that roof on every side. I just don't buy it, and I don't know how anyone ever could. Now let's talk a little more about the strikes at the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center were both over 1,300 feet tall, and they were 208 feet across. Two inexperienced amateur pilots accurately struck these towers traveling at speeds over 500 miles per hour, flying just hundreds of feet off the ground through the crowded Manhattan skyline. Neither pilot missed the buildings or hesitated at all, and the planes entered the towers like butter, followed by enormous explosions.
Plane coming down. You see? Boom!
Oh, man. What's going on? Wow. Oh, shit. Wow.
Now, as I've said, experienced pilots can't make a commercial jet in a simulator do these maneuvers. These aren't fighter jets made for this kind of flying. These were massive Airbuses, not meant to fly so fast and so low. But despite how impossible it sounds to pull off flying planes into the side of the Twin Towers, these amateur pilots did it on 9/11 twice. As crazy as just that is to believe, that's just the beginning of the impossible events still to unfold on 9/11. These two massive steel skyscrapers, for example, are going to vaporize to dust before our very eyes live on television. For the very first time ever in the history of steel frame buildings, Tower 2 of the World Trade Center collapses completely into its own footprint in just a matter of seconds. 29 minutes later, Tower 1 does the exact same trick of collapsing completely into its own footprint at near freefall speed. And they were gone. Both of them collapsed completely and in the same way, straight down, exploding to dust as it fell, and both at near freefall speed. Now you tell me, does this look like an accidental collapse due to fire damage or a controlled demolition?
The entire building has just collapsed as if a demolition team set off. When you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it's folded down on itself and it is not there anymore.
That should be it.
It
Thanks
has
very much,
completely
Dan.
collapsed.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
Or how about this one? That last one was Building 7 of the World Trade Center complex. A lot of people forget that a third building collapsed on 9/11, but at 5:20 p.m., Building 7, a 47-story steel frame building located approximately a football field away from the Twin Towers, also collapsed completely into its own footprint. That's right, 2 planes took out 3 targets. These amateur pilots are having quite a stellar day. All 3 of these buildings' collapses defy the laws of physics and are huge plot holes in the official story. So much so that they don't even really attempt to explain it in their official report. They avoid Building 7 altogether and have a hackneyed pancake collapse theory for the other 2's collapse. Now, I know that amazing things happen. Amazing, unexplainable things also just happen sometimes by complete accident, but not 3 times in one day. All these buildings falling in the same way from different types of damage, 3 steel frame buildings less than 40 years old just collapsed to dust through the path of most resistance at near free fall speed. Come on. So, for the day, 3 of 4 teams have taken out 4 separate targets with just 3 planes. For the 4th flight, though, we get our hero story of this horrible day. Flight 93 was hijacked at 9:28 a.m. It was the last plane hijacked of the 4, and one can only speculate what its intended target was for the day, because it never made it. Story goes, the passengers got together and overpowered the terrorists to take back control of the plane. Unfortunately, They still crash landed in a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And I mean into the field. The plane is gone. No pieces were discovered of any significance. However, there were conveniently placed terrorist souvenirs, things like red bandanas said to have been worn by the terrorists, terrorist passports, etc. Other than that, just a hole left in the ground. You see, the plane just happened to strike a strip mine that had been abandoned for quite some time. Here it is in an aerial photo from 1994. Flight 93 hit that very spot just perfectly and straight in also, I suppose, and just vanished. First responders on the scene that day said there was no evidence of a plane anywhere in the wreckage. However, pieces of Flight 93 were found scattered over a 100-mile area, so that's odd. But if you question the Flight 93 story, you're not only crazy, you're also disrespecting these heroes that saved who knows how many lives by attacking the terrorists and stopping them from reaching their intended target. You're also suggesting that the Air Force actually shot that flight down, killing the people on board. Believing that that might be what happened is viewed as crazy conspiracy theory nonsense, but it's actually much saner than the official story once again. The official story of 9/11 doesn't adhere to logic or reason. It doesn't care about the laws of physics or finding the truth at all. It wasn't even trying to discover who had carried it out. That was already decided. The 9/11 Commission's only purpose was to cover up and attempt to hide the loose ends of 9/11. When it could do that, it did it, and when it couldn't, it relied on bullshit physics or just outright omission, mostly the latter. There are still many more red flags surrounding 9/11 that deserve our attention. The next one I'd like to go into is the intense heat and the debris from the collapse of the towers at the Trade Center. There are many things suspicious about the debris from Towers 1, 2, and 7, but most interesting would be the intense heat underneath each debris pile and how long these underground fires and lava pits raged on. We're talking months of temperatures ranging from 400 degrees to 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit underneath the piles of rubble. Firefighters and rescue workers describe flowing lava underneath the rubble. You can even see lava dripping off steel as it's removed from the wreckage. Rescue workers' boots would just melt as they walked on the surface. All day they'd spray water on the fires, but it didn't matter, and the underground fires raged on for months. The steel from the buildings was rushed off to China with scary speed. The first ever steel frame buildings had collapsed to dust, and no one wants to investigate the steel? No one thinks we should at least find out how this happened to prevent it from happening again in the future? Well, apparently not, because it was shipped off as fast as they could load it up and put it on boats. Then there's the fact that the rescue workers and survivor stories don't match up to the official story. A great example of this is Willie Rodriguez. Willie was a janitor in the Twin Towers on 9/11, and he even received the Medal of Honor from George Bush for his heroism on that day. But Willie tells of multiple explosions in the towers on 9/11, beginning before the first plane strike even. And so do many rescue workers. And it can also be heard on the emergency radio chatter that has been released to the public since 9/11. Report after report of multiple explosions at the Trade Center by police and firefighters. Yet none of these reports were included in the official story. Barry Jennings, who was rescued from Tower 7, also tells of multiple explosions, inside the Twin Towers as well as in Building 7. The firefighters on the ground even knew when Building 7 was coming down and got people away in time. Barry Silverstein was even recorded in an interview saying that they pulled World Trade Center 7, a term used in demolition meaning they destroyed the building or took it down with explosives.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Only Willie was interviewed by the 9/11 Commission. Barry was not, but neither were included in their report. Willie Rodriguez still speaks out about his experiences on 9/11, but Barry died unfortunately from a heart attack not long after being interviewed for the 9/11 documentary Loose Change. So, Barry's story is out there and lives on, but does not match the official version. Jennings maintained in his final interview that he experienced many explosions in Tower 7 before being rescued. So Willie and Barry are two high-profile survivors who both speak of multiple explosions occurring on the day of 9/11 in the Twin Towers and in Building 7. What about some firefighters? We talked about them earlier. Let's hear from some of them.
We made it outside. We made it about a block.
We made it at least 2 blocks, and we started running. Floor by floor, started popping out.
It was if they had detonated. If they were planning to take down a building. Boom, 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 boom.
All the way down. I was watching it and running. Just ran up West Street. And then you just sort of this cloud of shit chasing you down. Couldn't outrun it. West Street. I couldn't outrun it. So what'd you do? I jumped behind a battalion car. I hit under the car. I was waiting to die.
What happened?
It was an explosion. We was in the lobby, and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the planet problem?
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion. Because we was inside waiting to go upstairs, and on our way upstairs, the whole fucking thing blew. And we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary?
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second was terrible. Then there was a third one too after that one.
Third explosion after that?
That's right. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And then exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
And it's just mayhem after that?
No, just man, everybody tried to make their way out.
Just trying to help all the brothers get out.
A lot of people trapped inside.
I was sitting in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, close to Brooklyn. We watched the first explosion. As we were watching the buildings, so a black, very large airplane fly right into the second building. Came out of the south, right in front of our eyes. Just,
as far as I know, at least 3 or 4.
It was so surreal, like a movie set. Second and third explosions also, right? We were in the building for the third one. It collapsed. I was on this drive here for the other one.
People don't understand. There may be more. Any one of these fucking buildings could blow up. This ain't done yet.
This is on the top of this. This could be no worse than this. Could be nothing no more worse than this. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside the building. So I don't think it can get any worse than this.
The next thing we must touch on is the massive amount of money made from and hidden on September 11th. Let's begin with Larry Silverstein. Lucky Larry Silverstein owned the lease on the World Trade Center on 9/11. He had only took over the lease 6 weeks before 9/11, signing a 99-year lease on the Trade Center complex for a whopping $3.2 billion. So not only did Lucky Larry avoid death by skipping his daily breakfast at Windows on the World restaurant located in Tower 1 the morning of September 11th, but he also made $4.6 billion in insurance claims on the attack. So 6 weeks into a 99-year commitment, Lucky Larry is already up $1.4 billion. Larry took on a failing skyscraper complex from the city of New York that was hemorrhaging money and needed billions worth of asbestos removed from just because he loved them so much. And instead of taking a massive hit financially, Larry gets a huge insurance payout and gets to build a brand new, up-to-date, paid-off skyscraper that he can design to rent out at maximum rates. Bye-bye, old, out-of-date, asbestos-laden, matchstick-looking shitbox. Hello, brand new, shiny Freedom Tower, or World Trade Center 1, or whatever it's called this week. The day before 9/11, the Pentagon announced it was missing $2.3 trillion. 1 day later, the office investigating the missing funds at the Pentagon is destroyed, along with all of the evidence. Just another weird coincidence, right? That's a lot of money. We can't afford health care, but we can just lose $2.3 trillion? I guess so, because today that number is well over $21 trillion, and they don't even worry about it explaining it anymore. Building 7 is also interesting because it held the offices of the CIA, the Department of Defense, and the Secret Service, as well as many big banks. It also held the City of New York Center for Emergency Management, a reinforced emergency command structure for the mayor and first responders to use in a crisis that oddly wasn't used on 9/11. There was also a lot of suspicious money made in the stock market that day. An unusual amount of put options, or bets that the stock will fall, were placed on United and American Airlines, the airlines used in the attacks. Millions were made, but no one was held accountable. How could people know that those two airline stocks would fall? Another very odd coincidence on 9/11 is that important people were told in advance not to fly commercial on 9/11. Mayor Willie Brown was among the ones to publicly admit it, but for example, Attorney General John Ashcroft and Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld had switched to private planes in the weeks before 9/11. Why make the expensive switch on taxpayers' dime from public transit to private jets if there's no threat? And who warned Willie Brown not to fly on September 11th? So, I can imagine right about now you're thinking things like, okay, so 9/11 didn't happen the way that they said it did. We get it. So how did it happen then? Who do you think did it? Or maybe something like, wait, Sean, are you saying that Bush did 9/11? Well, let's start with how did it happen. I believe that the CIA and Israel's Mossad carried out the dirty work of 9/11. But really, as far as who did it, I can only speculate based on the available evidence. I can tell you who didn't do it, and that's Osama bin Laden and 19 Al-Qaedas. Now, whether Bush did it or not, he was for sure involved, but he didn't act alone. I think Vice President Dick Cheney played a much larger role than Bush did. But I also think that's true of Bush's whole presidency. Donald Rumsfeld had to be involved as well, but outside of that, it's mostly, I think, the CIA and the Mossad. Now, you probably understand right away because of the 5 of the terrorists' direct ties to the CIA why I believe the CIA played a big role. But why Israel's Mossad? Why would Israel be involved in 9/11? Aren't Israel our allies? Our friends? Well, yes and no. We're actually ran by a cabal, and one of its headquarters happens to be Israel. The CIA and Mossad work together quite a bit. But more than tying in through our dirty intelligence agencies, Israel ties into 9/11 in a few more ways as well. Suspiciously, an Israeli art project was happening in the months leading up to September 11th inside the World Trade Center that called their project the B Thing. Now, as you can see in this picture of the students working inside the towers, the boxes that they're standing in front of are also all marked BB-18. What's in those boxes? Well, it turns out it's fuses used in detonation projects. Boxes and boxes of them just stacked up to the ceiling. And these art students from Israel were doing what with these fuses? No one knows because no one investigated the project. I know that I find it to be a very suspicious project, and I think it warrants an investigation. Why were these guys in the building? Why were they allowed to occupy entire floors of each tower? What were they doing with these fuses? Why did they have repelling equipment? Why were they allowed to repel down the buildings? These are all good questions. Unfortunately, no one asked them. Then, incriminatingly tying Israel to 9/11 is the dancing Israelis. You may have heard of this one actually because it was reported on the mainstream media, even though the official story ended up being that these men were just Israeli tourists working for a moving company who had heard about the first World Trade Center strike and had rushed to get a better view of the events. The men were first spotted shortly after 8:46 a.m., yet somehow, just minutes after the first plane strike on the World Trade Center, they were already in a parking lot in the Liberty State Park, taking pictures of the towers and celebrating. They left the scene shortly after being spotted, and at 3:31 p.m. the FBI issued an all-points bulletin advising officers in the greater New York area to be on the lookout for a white 2000 Chevrolet van with Urban Moving System sign on the back. At 3:56 p.m. the van was spotted traveling east on State Route 3 in New Jersey and was pulled over by Officer Scott DiCarlo and Sergeant Dennis Ravelli. Inside they found 5 men, Sivan Kurtzberg and his brother Paul, Yvonne Schmiel, Auded Elner, and Omar Mamari. According to the police report, Sivan Kurtzberg told Officer DiCarlo, "We are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem." Although this narrative of the men being innocent bystanders documenting the event is still trotted out whenever the story of the dancing Israelis comes up in the media, it's clearly a lie. FBI reports confirm that the men were not taking somber pictures of a horrific event. When their 76 pictures were developed, they revealed the men had indeed been celebrating, smiling and hugging each other, in high-fiving. One of the pictures even featured Sivan holding a lighter up with the burning tower in the background. And these were no ordinary tourists. Oded Elner had 4,700 stuffed into his sock. They lied to the police about where they'd been that morning, and they were carrying plane tickets for immediate departure to different places around the globe. The FBI confirmed that the two of the men had ties to Israeli intelligence and came to suspect that they had indeed been on a mission for the Mossad. And after returning to Israel, Elner claimed on national television that they had been sent there to document the event. What he said was, and at that point we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to us allegedly being members of the Mossad. The fact of the matter is we were coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event. How did they know there was going to be an event? And that's how Israel ties into 9/11, in my opinion. No matter who's responsible, the entire 9/11 event deserves a real investigation. Thousands died on that day, and millions have died since, all based on a lie. If it ever got a real investigation, and the truth of 9/11 was finally exposed, it would unravel this corrupt system and shake the powers that be, whatever they may call themselves, to their very core. This is where you come in. Now you may be asking, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. Well, what you can do is share this video. That's doing a lot. Spread the truth, because when you spread knowledge, everyone might not listen to you at first, but you're planting seeds.
Alright, so that was the video I wanted to watch with you guys. 10 proofs 9/11 had to be an inside job. That's from the YouTube channel. And let me bring myself back up here. Which set do I want to bring it up? Choose this one. I don't want to make the echo. There's one of the sets that I want to keep falling back on that has an echo in it, so I can't use that one. But this has been a marathon and a little test run for upcoming feeds. I'm trying to narrow and nail down the settings and get different sets set up for showing videos and for doing things like that. I do want to run an experiment at some point and see if I get flagged playing someone else's video. So far, all of these videos that I've played for you have been my own, that I've made for my own YouTube channel. But I want to experiment and see if a video of someone else's gets flagged, gets the live stream flagged. I did get a notification during the stream that something on my YouTube channel has gotten an age restriction. I don't know what video that would be. They rolled out new rules on YouTube, and you have to tell every time you make a video whether it's for kids or not. And I've set my whole channel to not for kids, so I don't know what the issue could be with that. That bothers me a little bit. But so what do you guys want to get into? What do you guys want to talk about? Larry says that we'll never be told what really happened on 9/11. Just like Lincoln, Kennedy, Oklahoma City, and on. We'll never find out the truth. And maybe he's right. I hope that he's not. But maybe he's right. Jason says Nikola Tesla technology was used to bring down the towers. Dustification. Judy Woods. Judy Woods is a researcher that has done some compelling work and makes a very strong case for direct energy weapons being used on 9/11. A version of that. Some kind of, I'm not going to be able to explain it properly. But it is Tesla technology being used on 9/11. Direct energy weapons. To dustify those towers. They collapsed to dust. You know, even the explosives explanation doesn't fully explain, to me at least, how they exploded and fell to dust. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. It never has. I don't think it's supposed to. I think the 9/11, the official 9/11 story, is supposed to be bullshit. And you're supposed to know it on some level. I believe that's part of it. I'm just looking at Kathy's chat from earlier. Kathy super chatted. We have super chat now on YouTube, and Kathy super chatted earlier, so I really want to thank her again one more time. But we've been doing a marathon to set up settings and talk about different stuff. We just watched my video on 9/11. Larry said, like the flight KAL 007 near Russia carrying Republican Larry McDonald and from September 1983. Steve says, hey Steve, most people cannot handle the truth about 9/11 because your life will never be the same after that. It does change you. It is a truth that people don't want to accept. People don't want to look behind the curtain. They want to live in this protected reality where there isn't this evil going on. But that's not the world we live in. And turning a blind eye to the reality of the world we live in is dangerous. And we live in the age of deceit, in a time of lies. And I have a very hard time trusting the establishment on anything. But so I don't understand at this point how anybody does. But I know that I've come to that over time. I wasn't always at that point. There was a time when I believed in the official story, and I was very gung-ho and for everything we were doing and the advancement of the agenda in the Middle East. But that time is long past. My eyes have been opened to what's really going on, and this was a predetermined false flag event. I fully believe that, but people don't want to see it. Steve's right. They don't want to look at the truth. They'd do anything to avoid looking at what really went on and what really happened. And I think that's true about a lot of things, not just 9/11. I just think 9/11 is important because it's a key to unlocking this power structure that's lorded over us for so long and bringing it down, because it exposes them doing something horrific. And once you prove that and prove that they did it and identify the they, there is a they have names. We know some of them. I know Dick Cheney was an orchestrator. I believe he was the real president during the George W. Bush administration. I don't think George W. Bush was really the president. They made a movie about it. I thought it long before that, but I thought it was funny when they made a movie about it. Because I'm like, well, they're rubbing it in your face. They're just letting you know Dick Cheney was the real president, not George Bush. George Bush was just the front man in the name, the Bush name, to win the presidency. But really, Dick Cheney was pulling the strings. And I believe Bush probably knew about 9/11. He was involved enough to know something was going to go on, something was going to happen. You can just tell that from his reaction. You know, when he's reading My Pet Goat in that elementary school in Florida, you can tell from his reaction that he knew something was happening. He was aware of it. You know, it wasn't new information when the guy whispered in his ear, "We've been hit again." He knew it was coming when they got hit the first time. Here it goes. But I think that's about as far as he was involved. He just knew that there was nothing could be done, that this was going to happen. This is how it's going to play out. And the Secret Service had to know it because they didn't rush to get him out of that school. He stayed in that school for hours. And everybody knew where he was. It was a photo op. Journalists and press were there. It was a highly publicized photo op. And the first thing they would have done in an attack situation with the country under attack is get the president out of there. Get him somewhere safe. That's the first thing they would have done. There's so much wrong with the official version and the official account of what went on that day and what really happened that day. There's so much wrong with it. And that's why I feel like even though it's been successfully buried for almost 18 years, which blows me away. I don't know how something so obviously false could stay buried for that long. I mean, I gotta tip my hat to the power of the propaganda machine and the mass media for being able to sell a lie for that long, with all the effort that's been done to expose it, and all the compelling arguments that have been made against the official story. I think they can just respond to all that with nothing and just call you crazy, and it works. It's worked for 18 years. It's scary. It's scary that that works, and it's that easy to silence the truth. So, but there is a mass awakening happening. There are people waking up on a massive scale. And I hope that it happens fast enough for us to save ourselves, because I think we are in danger if it doesn't. But that's why I spread so much about 9/11. One, it was the thing that woke me. It was the thing that really made me pull back the curtain. You know, there was conspiracies. I've always loved conspiracies. You know, there was conspiracies that I loved and I got into before that. But when I realized that when I finally realized that our government helped pull that off and was involved and complicit at least in that attack, when I finally realized that as truth, it took me down a rabbit hole that has exposed the true evil that lives behind and lords over us from the shadows. It's sick, it's disgusting, and we do live in the age of deceit. Now, if Steve is still with us, this next thing that I want to do before we wrap up, and first off, by the way, I want to thank everybody for hanging out and allowing me this opportunity to use you as guinea pigs and test out settings and things like that. But hopefully you're digging the videos we're watching. And what I was going to say is the next one's about the moon landing. This is a big lie. And I think it's important to expose it. I think that there has been a dramatic amount of money funneled down. Well, I know a dramatic amount of money's been funneled down this imaginary hole, and it needs to be exposed that the moon landings are fake. I fully believe that. Now, that's my conspiracy tinfoil hat one. I'll embrace it. So if Steve's here, I admit it. I admit that earns me my tinfoil hat. But I believe it to my core that we've never been to the moon. And I believe it's one of the biggest lies being sold to humanity as truth. So to wrap up today, we are going to end this with my Man Has Never Been to the Moon video. This is a video from the YouTube channel that I wish had done better, and I don't think has been given enough exposure, and I would like to get it out. So we're going to watch it together and comment and take part. And thanks again for hanging out and letting me try stuff out with you guys. But I think I need to tweak one more thing, move this up just a little bit more. It might be too much now, but we'll find out. And again, thank you. And this is my Man Has Never Been to the Moon video. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We're going to watch this and then close up a little bit. And I'll see you tonight on the Daily Burn and tomorrow for Conspiracy Theories and Chill. But this is Man Has Never Been to the Moon.
Today on Conspiracy Theories and Chill, we're going to talk about the moon landings. According to NASA and science books, we went to the moon 7 times and landed on it 6 times between 1969 and 1972. While we were up there, we planted flags, we walked around and jumped up and down on it and took pictures. On later missions, we rode around in dune buggies. Hell, we even played a little golf while we were on it. We were exceptionally successful in our moon expeditions. In fact, only one mission failed. Tom Hanks made a movie about it called Apollo 13. But all astronauts on all missions survived the trips, and 6 out of 7 missions landed safely on the surface of the moon. Now, those are very impressive stats, even for top-notch science and aviation pros like NASA. Out of the 7 missions, you have a 100% survival rate and an impressive 85% overall success rate? Wow. That's a cool story, bro. Sorry, though. I just don't buy it. I don't believe we've ever went to the moon, much less landed on it. I don't think we could have done it back then, and I don't think we could do it today. I think they faked it, and I think it's obvious. Maybe not back in the late 60s and early 70s. That shit was fuzzy and cool looking on them little bitty ass TVs. But today, looking back, the moon landing footage is laughable. Better television screens and computers have cleared up the images, examined them, and found them to be fraudulent. In this video, I'm going to show you why I say that. Another big reason that I don't believe that we've ever been to the moon is because NASA says that we can't do it today. 50 plus years later, with 50 years more advancement in technology and 50 years more research done by NASA scientists and engineers, and we can't do it again? Why not? We should be able to do it easy. We should be able to drill for oil on that rock if we wanted to. How come we can't do that? Well, for one, NASA says that they lost the trajectory data necessary for the journey.
Go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
That's right. You heard the astronaut. They just destroyed all the data from the most important accomplishments of mankind. That's a whole 7 missions and more than 3 years worth of data, mind you. That's a whole lot of data to just lose, but I guess shit happens, right? Nah, I'm calling bullshit on that one too. If I lost 2 homework assignments in school with that same excuse, my teacher would have called bullshit on me too, and rightfully so. You don't just lose data that is that important and historical. Then there's the fact that NASA also claims that we can't send humans through the Van Allen radiation belts today, but that we could do it safely back in the 70s 7 times? Listen to this guy from NASA talk about how we can't get through the Van Allen radiation belts.
We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Again, really cool story, but the phone in my pocket today is more advanced than the computers NASA were using in the 70s. Everything is more advanced today than it was 50 years ago. You don't think space travel technology has advanced in 50 years? If you could do something and do it so well so long ago, why can't you do it again? Why can't you even go outside of low Earth orbit? It makes no sense to me unless you never could do it to begin with. Now let's talk more about the problems with the moon footage. There are many problems with the moon footage as well as the pictures that were taken on the moon missions. Some are proven to be outright fakes.
Center of the Earth is viewed from the spacecraft in the eastern Pacific Ocean. We have not been able to visually pick up the Hawaiian island chain, but we can clearly see the western coast of North America, the United States, the San Joaquin Valley, the High Sierras, Baja California, and Mexico down as far as Acapulco and the Yucatan Peninsula, and you can see on through Central America to the northern coast of South America, Venezuela, and Colombia. I'm not sure you'll be able to see all that on your screens down there.
That was Neil Armstrong describing a shot of the Earth from halfway to the moon. Now let me show you the clip of them faking that shot from low Earth orbit.
Here they discuss that these television transmissions were in fact not broadcast live as everyone believed. They were first screened and edited for playback later.
Roger, Neil. We just wanted a narrative such that we can, when we get to playback, we can sort of correlate what we were saying. Thank you very much.
Here they discuss the fact that they have turned out the lights and have blocked out sunlight from entering the spacecraft through the other windows, as to not cause any reflected light to fall onto the spacecraft's wall in the foreground.
Okay, very good. Well, we shut out the sun coming in some of the other windows into the spacecraft, so it's looking through the number one window, and there isn't any reflected light.
The reason this was done is so that the truth of the matter would not be revealed. It is this. Though the federal government would have you believe that this is a view of Earth from a distance out of the spacecraft's window as it nears the moon, it is not. What they have ingeniously done is placed the camera at the back of the spacecraft and centered the lens on a circular window in the foreground, outside of which it is completely filled with the Earth in low orbit. The circumference of the window then appears to be the diameter of the Earth at a distance, with the darkened walls of the spacecraft appearing to be the blackness of space around it. That is why they wanted the interior dark and blocked out the sun from entering through the other windows. Here you can see the extruded window, probably 2 inches thick at the bottom. This is because the Earth's shine is coming in at a downward angle. It also causes the Earth to appear to be an irregularly shaped circle, for you are seeing the outside of the window at the bottom and the inside of the window at the top, which together form 2 different sized halves of a circle. Subsequently, this take was never used. As they perfected the shot, a crescent-shaped piece of black material was inset slightly into the window to create the illusion of the Earth's terminator line dividing night and day. It is uncannily convincing. During this segment, intended to be edited and played back later for the worldwide television audience, dated July 18, 1969, Neil Armstrong condemns himself as he states that he is 130,000 miles out, or halfway to the moon, as the NASA flight log also states on this date, when he is in reality in low Earth orbit of a few hundred miles.
Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. Calling in from about 130,000 miles out.
Here, during another segment, also intended to air after review, Neil Armstrong falsely explains to the viewers how the shot is attained by putting the camera's lens to the window's glass, as it would have to be if they were the claimed distance away from the Earth.
We only have one window that has a view of the Earth, and it's filled up with a TV camera.
If the window was completely filled up with a TV camera, as he stated, then an astronaut's arm would not be able to get between the camera and the window, as it obviously does here in this outtake.
South America becomes invisible just off beyond the Terminator or inside the shadow.
You can also notice how the astronaut operating the camera reacted to the mistake by attempting to pan away from it.
See white bands of major cloud formations across the Earth.
This is a segment that they believed wasn't even being recorded, much less suitable for broadcast, for the lens was being zoomed out and the scene was being changed to that of an interior of the astronauts at work, and apparently the stop button popped back up on the recorder without notice. Here is the diffused work light that they used to see camera controls, but not throw light onto the spacecraft's wall. Here they remove part of the crescent insert. Finally, the iris is opened up and you can see the real location of the camera and the very bright and near Earth out the window. Here is the slate for the 19th of July, and the same shot of trickery on the 19th of July, and then the 20th, and the same misleading shot on the 20th. Later that evening, they were said to be walking on the moon. How can this be when they were in Earth orbit only 9 hours earlier, and the moon is some 3 days' journey away. Furthermore, if they genuinely went to the moon, why would they be faking any part of it? Why this trickery with the window? By faking being halfway to the moon, it becomes apparent that they did so because they could not even go halfway.
I have to agree with her. There are also pictures with prop markings on rocks, like this picture here, where you can see the sea on this rock from the moon. In the moon landing footage, the astronauts seem to be on wires, and a lot of times just appear to be being filmed in slow motion.
Astronauts moving in slow motion is another hallmark of the Apollo TV footage. There is no evidence at all of any astronaut making a leap or a jump anywhere near a height commensurate with 1/6 G possibilities. But if they were actually simulating EVAs on Earth, they would then need help with their bulky heavyweight suits and backpacks in order to achieve the visual effect of moving around easily in lunar gravity. So enter wire supports. This is a tried and tested way of relieving weight from performers, or even flying an actor. Confirmation that wires were used is in the detail. Here in this Apollo 14 footage, you can see a ping, a momentary glint. And again, run slowly. And once more. There are other examples too. This one is from Apollo 17 during the flag scene. You can see the ping at the top of the frame. In this footage from Apollo 16, we have telltale evidence of a slightly floating or dangling effect at the jump salute location. It's as if the weight is being taken off the astronaut's feet just a second or so too soon. Compare that sequence with an obvious rehearsal rig. The dangling effect is very evident. And here again, from the same mission, Apollo 16, we have an astronaut who is about to get up.
Okay, here we go.
Let me give you a hand, he says.
There goes bag. There goes another bag. Bag. Coming.
Look at it again. The astronaut is getting up with the wire taking the weight, relieving him of 5/6 of the Earth's gravity. A magic trick? No, just the help of a wireman. This is a slow-motion jump that would have been seen live on TV. And here it is at normal speed. The well-rehearsed, pre-recorded material was apparently slowed down by 50% when we saw it on TV. And yes, we've done the necessary work to establish that percentage.
Then you've got all kinds of other problems with the photos on the moon, like shadows going both ways, videos of flags waving without wind. Evidence of Photoshop is also rampant in some of the photos taken on the moon. Now we have also got to talk about the lunar lander. I mean, look at this thing. This looks like I made it with a $100 budget out of crap from Hobby Lobby. This paper-mache looking craft landed 2 guys on the moon and got them back up off the surface of the moon to regroup with the orbiter and return safely home. This taped together paper and aluminum foil lander did all of that. In my humble opinion, the footage and photos, and that lander for that matter, are all fake. So they're at least lying about that much. But I think it's the whole thing. Some people think they just faked the footage because they had to for some reason. But they think that we still went to the moon. Not me, though. I think that they realized it couldn't be done and just decided to fake it. I think that NASA is just a front and a money pit, and that their version of space is just a staged production that they produce to justify their budget. Basically, I think NASA is nothing more than entertainment masquerading as truth while laundering huge amounts of money. People think that it's crazy to think that. I mean, you must be Looney Tunes if you believe that NASA faked 7 moon missions. Thousands of people work for NASA. You can't keep more than 3 people quiet. How are you going to control that many liars? Well, first, you don't have to. Not all of them are even liars. It's called compartmentalization. Think about it your own job. Does your boss tell you every little thing or just what you need to know to do your job? It's like that, but on a larger and more military scale. Only the tippy top people of that pyramid have the true knowledge of what's going on. Everyone under them are just drones on task to keep busy. Most of them are very well paid and don't question any of what they're doing there. They just do their jobs and clock out and go home just like you do. It's not like a huge project hasn't ever been done in secret before. The people working on the atomic bomb had no idea they were building the atomic bomb. You control the lie by controlling who knows the whole truth. Then you own those few people, whether you own their loyalty through secret societies or by blackmail of some kind. Now you're only talking about a handful of people knowing the truth, and these people aren't the type to do any talking. Some don't talk with words, but with their behavior and body language. Like Neil Armstrong, who just acted really weird and avoided talking about going to the moon at all. He just stayed away from the public eye and was mostly just an angry, drunk recluse for most of his life. Watch him in this press conference right after getting back from doing the coolest shit ever done by man.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Apollo 11 crew, astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, Edwin Aldrin. Neil?
It was our pleasure to have participated in one great adventure. It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the things that occurred on and about the moon. We will use a number of films and slides which most of you have already seen, and with the intent of pointing out some of the things that we observed on the spot which may not be obvious to those of you who are looking at them here from the surface of Earth. The flight, as you know, started promptly. And I think that was characteristic of all the events of the flight. The Saturn gave us one magnificent ride, both into Earth orbit and on a trajectory to the moon. Our memory of that actually differs little from the reports that you have all heard from those previous Saturn V flights, and the previous flights served us well in preparation for this flight in the boost as well as the subsequent phases. We would like to skip directly to the translunar coast phase, and
those didn't look like guys who just got back from walking on the moon to me. They look like uncomfortable people being forced to lie at a press conference is what they look like. I don't know why they're lying. I just know in my gut that they are. And I'm no body language expert, but with these postures and behaviors, I don't think you need to be. The best we can even do today is low Earth orbit. That's as far out into space as we can go because of the Van Allen radiation belts. As you heard the nice engineer from NASA say very clearly earlier in this video, we cannot yet send humans to this region of space, is how I believe he phrased it. We have supposedly done it 7 times at least. But if, as you heard from NASA's astronaut Don Petit, they also destroyed that data. So they can't figure it out again today. They'd like to, but as he said, it'd be a painful, difficult process to build it back up. And with funding being cut to NASA, I doubt they'll be getting us through the Van Allen belt problem anytime soon. But maybe the private sector, maybe Elon Musk and SpaceX could do it. Maybe, one day, but I doubt it. There's problems with SpaceX as well, but that's a tale for another time. After hearing all of this, especially if it's for the first time, you're going to fall into one of 2 camps. Those who'll just dismiss it, and those who'll dig a little deeper into it on their own. And that's the camp that I make videos for. And if that's you and you enjoyed this video, please share it and help spread the truth. Well, until next time, this has been Conspiracy Theories and...
Thanks for watching, everybody, and hanging out.